think that.
They can see me in all my wondrous glory
right.
there. Yeah.
I think that backed us out a little bit there.
Yeah, that was a very good idea.
Hi, everybody.
Man. Upstate again by the movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I just been kind of paying attention. It's like, what can we do?
Yeah, you know, it was a little bit better format because this character over here, who shall remain nameless because I'm so embarrassed, he says, why don't we just put a little table in front so that we can put
Back
our computer on it, get back, and both be in frame. I don't know geometry. So anyhow, let's see. Hi, Cherokee. Hi, Chris, Mr. Lodak,
Hi,
Gold
everybody.
Banner, Jeff, Ethan. Oh,
Pretty good group already.
man, I've got 11 already, less than a minute in. Man, sweet. Anyhow, folks, so both the new guy who shall remain nameless and I, we've both been out in the field a bit this week. For some reason, let me try that other one here. Let's see what happens.
Backing out a little more.
See if this.
That's too much. That's really bright on there. That puts this line on there.
Yeah, I think you just gotta do it this way. Let's see how that works.
That isn't too bad. Yeah, that isn't too bad.
Okay, the gaffer just got the lighting fixed. Anyhow,
David,
so we've been out in the field. Eve and I just got back literally like 3 hours ago from a 3-day trip, so I haven't had time to put any video up or anything. Still got 400 pounds of samples sitting in the back of the Bago. And I guess you were putting up claim stakes.
yeah, I was
this week,
up
right?
staking some claims and straightening up some other claim markers and organizing things.
Terry is saying hi, everyone, including Eva.
Hi.
I don't think Eva's not planning on doing a tinfoil hat today because she hasn't had much time to get ready for it. But who knows? Something may happen and she may decide to jump in. You never can tell. She does what she feels like when she feels like it. You know how that goes. Anyhow, Eva and I took off Saturday morning. Went to Prospect N, basically. I found a new tunnel in the hillside when I was wandering around doing some stuff. And I was hoping that it would lead me into some stopes that were there. It'd be pretty sketchy to try and get in there because loose rock and stuff. You have to stabilize things a bit to keep from knocking stuff on your head with the rope. But unfortunately, it didn't go in very far. Did get some samples though. Did a little bit more work at Montana B, which is in the same area. Then Sunday morning, we went to one of the new spots that we found and made ingress and got some samples there. And from there, we moved. What did you say it was? 10 miles by the crow flies or something?
6 miles is the crow flies, 20 miles by road.
Yeah. 6 miles by the crow and 20 miles by the road. Bumpy road. To Prospect M again. And Eva got to use a borrowed metal detector and look around and find out what the word trash means when you're metal detecting. Real pain thing. And so she got to play with that a bit. I had some more staking to do. And then this morning I packed up about 350 pounds of dump samples. Basically two. One's 4 buckets, one's 3. That's what I could fit. And we hauled them back. And also, Chris Georgie brought up an interesting point. Now, placer claims are done according to the cadastral survey, the township section range. And as such, you can't really, let me see if I can get the And as such, you have to be careful how you stake it. So while putting a discovery monument in there is fine, unless you can reference where section corners are, what the GPS coordinates are and stuff, you really can't figure out where to put the corners on the placer claim. So I made this little form here, and this is specifically for the latitude of Helena, Montana. So that this would be a section, and these are your quarter section lines, and these are your quarters, and these are your, I don't know what they are, quarters, but these are actually 10. Each square is 10 acres. You have to use 2 of them, 660 by 1320 feet. So down here, I've got the difference in longitude and the difference in latitude as you go from this section corner. You can do it from others, but here it's all addition. And then little scales here and there and stuff. So in the future, when I need to do it, I have somewhere I don't have to do all the calculations again. But once we figured out where the corners of the placer claim were, they were out there staking that and then get the certificate in. And I got to give some kudos to the Broadwater Recorder's Office, because I showed up wanting to get it recorded today. So, kind of getting towards the end of that first 30-day period, And unfortunately, both the ladies who normally do the recordations were gone today. So a gentleman that works in the office there went to extra trouble to get a hold of the lady, which was not working today. I'm not sure why. It was never said. I never asked. And had her literally talk him through the procedure so he could get my paperwork done today so I could have it. So I want to thank them very much for the extra effort. That was very, very nice. Of course, up here in Montana, everyone is in general very, very nice.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like those 2 guys we met on the ATVs with that sweet dog.
Mohammed, there has been 0 deaths in Australia for 6 months, yet we're still on lockdown in Victoria. Sounds like government. I don't believe, I know that in Arizona where we came from, there was a day not too long ago with 0 deaths. Do you know if there's any deaths in Montana?
I'm not sure, but I haven't heard of any recently in the last few weeks.
Hi, Lars.
But we're pretty much wide open now here.
Yeah, there's no masks. I mean, I went into a government
mandates.
I went into a government office the other day, which I will not describe because they're probably still supposed to be wearing masks. They weren't, we weren't, nobody gave a damn. So,
Small town.
yeah, and I think at this point you're having to seriously consider which is more dangerous, COVID or the vaccine. Everyone has to talk to their doctor and make that decision themselves. My doctor over here has already made her decision for me. Thank you.
You forgot one category in there.
What?
COVID vaccine or the government.
Yeah, that's right. I'd be more scared of government.
Oh, I've always been more scared of the government. But anyhow, how's the elbow doing? Let's see. As you can see, the elbow's still kind of bumped out there a bit. Last night, I woke up in the middle of the night with the hand starting to go a little numb from the wrap, so I unwrapped it. And by the time I got home today, it was pretty bulgy, not very uncomfortable. Although the wrap has made it more sensitive, so now it's not hard to remember not to rest it on things. But not a big problem. I mean, I gave it a fairly good workout this weekend, and it wasn't a huge problem. But anyhow, so I'll have another video up in a day or two on our adventures this weekend, and then I've got some samples to test. And that sample from Prospect M, the vast majority of it seems to be just decomposing in place. I mean, I think if you were to just trommel it, the kind where you break up the clay and stuff, you might be able to get good gold recovery. That's one of the tests I'm going to do. Is I'm going to break it up and screen it, and then see where the gold is, because then I can crush
there's free gold in there.
Yeah.
Easy to get.
Because if it's in the decomposed stuff, we may not have to crush that stuff at this point. I don't know. But the assays indicate a fairly low grade. Not for a placer mine, though. A placer mine would normally be less than 100th, right? Less than 100th of an ounce. It'd be less than $18 a ton.
Oh yeah, placer could be down to 7. It depends on what the expenses are, though.
Well, this is at least 5
I
times.
mean, I ran dollar dirt. That you're not going to make much money running it. You can wear out a lot of equipment, though.
Yeah, Jeff, I agree. The flu deaths last year the masks were amazingly effective against the flu, apparently. Rub some butter on it. It
They were
won't help
also
that it'll taste
amazingly
good.
effective against heart disease.
I got bacon grease. Oh,
That'll
even
work.
tastier than butter.
Hey.
Um,
Bears will like it better, too.
oh, yeah, there's that. Huh?
Yeah. They would be able to smell you about 5 miles away with bacon grease on you. Yeah.
No, we didn't run into any critters this time, although we did hear some coyotes. There was a pack of coyotes. What would you say?
Singing.
Half a mile or more away?
At least.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't real close, but yeah, they were making noise. And last night they were to the east of us, and this morning they were to the south of us. So they wandered around there. But anyhow, I will have some videos on these things. I think that dump itself might be pretty easy to process. It's on national forest land, so of course there will be no possibility to do anything for the immediate future.
Samples. You can pull some samples.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we can pull samples 500 pounds at a time.
Yeah, they bring them home.
That's a long drive for that, though. Wow. It's bumpy. There's just no way to get through. We've tried, and there's no way to get to it without going over some bumpy roads. I mean, worn out courses. The one we came back today was the worst of the 3 that we went. That last video I showed you where we went through the forest and everything, that was a little better than what we did today. And that was pretty disappointing. So, anyhow, I'll have a video up and I'll do some testing and this, that, and the other. Still waiting for the assays to come back from the testing we did at camp. Montana Tech. So no results there yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard on ours either. So we're waiting soon.
What lab were you guys sending to?
I don't know because it went through
Is
their
that
own
good?
company. So, but I'll get results from it.
Yeah. Are they doing most of it in-house or do you know?
No, they sent it to somebody for a third party. I'm pretty sure.
Well, at least
Not to say that they didn't do some of their own in-house.
well, because they're a medium-sized company at least, then they'll have more pull than we do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had, I don't know, probably 30 really good samples that he took that one day. So it'll be a pretty good overall third-party assessment.
Yeah, Lars, I'm pretty sure it's getting that warm. It was, it's been really warm last week, over 90 here in Helena. And when we were out there, I'd say Saturday, it was probably in the low 80s. Sunday was cooler. This morning it was pretty cool. I put on a coat.
Yeah, refreshing.
Yeah. So
I don't know, that's part of the fun of being here, though, is you get those nice fresh mornings.
you've got weather here. You don't have climate. Tucson, we have climate. Hotter.
reminder that Arizona sucks rocks.
Yeah. Usually, Mohammed, you try and distribute it evenly. For that very reason. I would agree. Let's see. No. So, anyhow, does anyone have any questions popping up? Did we get something going in that way? So I don't have any real results. I don't have a video, up so you guys can talk about it. But yeah, we did have some fun. Well, there is. I don't think you can really keep californium around for too much. I think the half-life is measured in milliseconds, maybe. Not sure. Oh, and with respect to the price of gold and silver, you said something's coming up here soon.
Well, the Basel III agreement comes into effect June 28th, and it mainly affects Europe. It doesn't affect the United States till the end of the year.
Correctly.
But it's going to affect the banks and how they allocate and hold gold. So it should be good for the gold and silver markets.
At least the prices.
Yeah, it should
The
very.
real market, not the paper
right.
market.
We're getting closer and closer to a real market.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I can put that out for everybody. Back in the late Nixon term, I'll do that just a second, Jeff. When the U.S. decoupled the price of gold, quickly it went up to about $100 an ounce. But then it surged up to about $400 an ounce over a year or so. And it basically stayed at 300 to 400 for almost a decade.
Yep.
So the question is, and we'll get to it in just a minute, folks. What is your personal belief in what the intermediate term price of gold is going to be, as in 1 to 2 years from now? Okay, because I think there's going to be an escalation and then some kind of a plateau somewhere, but I don't know where that plateau is going to be. But why don't we all think about that, and we'll put in our guesstimates from there. Now, Jeff asked about the rotopan. I have never used a rotopan. I know what you're talking. It's basically a flat pan with kind of spirals. And I believe it's primarily used for high production of fairly coarse gold. Have you ever used
No,
one?
I have not.
I don't know anyone that's used it because
It's a form of a concentrator, so,
and
I believe it works, Bob.
yeah, I know they work, but I don't know how well. I think it's basically a high-speed kind of pan, whereas we're generally in testing and such want to be more a high capture rate. You know you've got it. Now Jeff thinks the plateau is about 2,400. Gold Panner says 2,500. And I'm going to throw this out there. The last time the price tripled to quadrupled, and I don't believe there was a lot of concern about there not being the gold in the vaults to cover the paper as there is now. I think that 3 or 4 to 1 seems more reasonable to me. That would put it more like 5,000 or so. And Gold Panner says he's used one and it didn't keep the fines very well. It's good for the 20 mesh and larger, which would make sense.
Yeah.
Because it's got very little retention ability. You've got to get through the stuff quickly, so that would make sense for the coarser gold. My guesstimate, and by the way, this is just purely guesstimate. This is my gut feeling, is that as things go sideways, people are going to lose confidence in a lot of stuff. And if they don't think that there's gold in the vaults to back up the paper gold that's currently extant out there, I would think physical gold, the price would go up pretty substantially. Now, again, I'm guessing. My belief is that over the next few years, we're going to see a dramatic spike in the price of precious metals, and the ability to mine is going to be less restrictive than it is currently. Right now, I think we're probably in about the most restrictive permitting environment that has ever occurred.
In the United States, yep.
Yeah, in the United States. Well, a good qualification there. And I keep forgetting, I have a lot of people from Australia and stuff, although from what somebody just asked, I forgot who it was. What is the reason for having lockdowns at this time? Seems to me to be control. 75% of gold in the U.S. comes out of Nevada. I would agree with that. The big open pit heap leach operations. In Montana, we can't compete because we can't heap leach. I don't know how many ore bodies we have of a world-class nature, but yeah, without heap leaching, most of them are useless. That's why Nevada is such a big hit, because they have these big disseminated ore bodies, and they're able to exploit them relatively easily. Oh, interesting thing too. I was talking to the fish and game fisheries biologist today, because my daughters and I caught some fish that looked to be like hybrids and browns and rainbows. He says, he doesn't think so. I think it's probably just a weird coloration on a brown. But the interesting thing was, I asked him, why are we not allowed to take brown trout down here? And he said, politics. It has nothing to do with reality. With the fisheries biologists wanting to increase the brown to rainbow region. It's because people who have political pull like the brown trout and want them to be increased.
Whatever. Yeah.
But anyhow, so that's it. I understand what they say the lockdowns are for, but in the United States, those states that did lock down have greater than or equal to rates of infection as those that didn't lock down at all or had minimal lockdowns. There doesn't seem to be any statistical substantial correlation between lockdowns and infection rates, which is why, if we all just want to go shoot ourselves in the head, we can prevent COVID deaths entirely. Zero COVID deaths. But there's a certain other negative consequence to that. So everything in life you have to balance. And Australia has had less than 1,000 COVID deaths. Can you check that out, little one? Total COVID deaths in Australia.
She's on it right now there.
She's on it. Because I think it was higher than that, but I don't know. I do know that, Sweden, for example, had no lockdowns, and compared to Britain, which did have lockdowns, they had lower rates at one time. On the other hand, Britain has a higher population density. It's very difficult to tease reality unless you start out with good data. And I think right now
confirmed cases 30,195, deaths 910.
Okay, you're right, Mohammed. It was about 1,000. Now the question is, how many other people have died for reasons that they wouldn't have died? That's how you have to do it, because no matter what you do, there's always a cost and a benefit. And I don't know who's doing these calculations. It seems to be, we're only going to weigh the benefit and not worry about the cost. Yep, you're right, Mohammed. Very good.
Very-
Underground, ship concentrate either Germany or Japan.
Yeah.
It's unusual to ship it that far, but it
Not
can
really,
be done.
because they have processing.
Hey Terry, how's it
The
going?
Germans have excellent processing.
Well, so there's other places that have it too. So if you ship it all the way around the world.
It'd have to be good ore.
Yeah, it has to
You
be
know,
good quality.
but I mean, when we were looking
Why
at
not
even big bulk samples,
Nevada?
that was one of our choices, was Germany.
Yeah. Let's say, gold miner from Wenatchee, so presumably this is underground.
Yeah.
So, well, I guarantee you that I could crush that and recover most of the gold if it's that high a grade.
If they're sending it to Germany or Japan,
Yeah.
they're trying to get everything out of the rock.
I know.
that's in it.
But if I got 80% of it out of the rock
Ship the
and then
concentrate.
just ship the other,
Right, minimize the concentrate.
yeah, that's it. There's various ways of doing it, but yeah, that would have to be very high grade. And again, at that rate, you might just ship it to Nevada and save a lot of shipping costs.
St. George, Utah, I think, can process.
Yeah, there's lots of
There is,
different places.
yeah, there is, but nothing here locally for us.
And it all depends. There might also be a situation where there was like you have a particular company
Right.
that's interested in your mine.
Right.
Obviously, they're going to send it to their facility
Yep.
before they send it to somebody else's
Right,
facility.
no, they'll concentrate it, they'll do the same thing, they'll crush it, concentrate it, and then the concentrate, who knows, where it might go to Israel, it might go to Germany, you don't know. Israel's got really good quality control too. from what I hear.
Yeah, the Liberty area has got really rich gold, but it's not only rich, it's coarse, which makes it relatively easy to recover the majority of the gold using simple gravity extraction techniques. Then you would only leach your tailings, and you wouldn't have to pay a processing fee for the good stuff. If the entrained gold in the depleted ore was not enough to pay for the shipping, then you just don't worry about it.
Right,
It's
no,
like I just
right, it's a non-event.
keep the gold myself.
Right,
Exactly.
non-event.
So I agree, Kevin. Both. Let's see. Although we do have to discuss a few things because they do affect us. Although it's more the regulatory environment at this point.
Oh,
And a lot of things affect the regulatory environment. Yeah, we won't discuss the details, Jeff, but I'd say this is what I was saying about suspicious.
well, some of the states are starting to retract their death numbers, so it's going to get far more interesting as truth comes out of this. So,
As time goes on, there'll be more and more people doing more and more analyses of the data.
yeah,
And we'll see, for example, I find it highly unusual that flu was essentially non-existent this year, when this first year in history, it's been non-existent. I think it may be a statistical issue, but we'll find out. Sooner or later. No problem, Jeff.
but, Kevin, I agree that there's a lot more. I went back, I've been doing a little bit of historical stuff here recently, and I was looking at numbers from right here in this Helena area from 1887. And in 1887, Montana was producing 1/4 of the gold and silver in the United States. Colorado was number 2, California was number 3, and Nevada, which I found quite interesting because there evidently was enough guys here looking for stuff that they did those kind of numbers.
Nevada was number 1 back then?
No, it was number 4.
Number 4?
Montana was number 1 in 1887.
Okay.
They pulled $5 million worth of gold out at $16.57 an ounce. and they pulled 15.5 million ounces of silver out at $1 an ounce. Because basically the silver itself was the money at the time in circulation. Was, 1 ounce, $1 coins, silver coins.
Well, the gold that was coming out of Montana, was that primarily hard rock or placer?
Mainly,
They had a lot
at
of
this
placer.
point, it was mainly placer. The hard rocks in 1887, the hard rock mines, for the most part, were just getting started. Which brings me to the next thing, because in that year, in 1887, they were building the East Helena smelter. That's the first smelter they built here. And their first shipment, they ordered a train, because the railroad had just gotten here to Helena. They ordered a 6-car train in here to take out the proceeds from the first run of silver and lead that they did at the smelter. And they did 240,000 pounds of gold and or silver and lead in their first run at that smelter, which is incredible.
I think that's some rich ores around here.
Yeah, it was just, that was incredible, considering they were just in the process of even putting everything together here.
Jeff, are you talking placer or hard rock gold? Because if you're talking placer gold, a dry washer is fairly low weight, especially if you can leave it there hidden somewhere and do multiple trips. Those guys from I Break for Bedrock, they'll turn a lot of gravel and sand into a small amount of concentrate fairly efficiently. The problem with the dry washer is it doesn't work on damp material, and it doesn't work on real fine gold. But if it's set up properly, yeah, I would check out dry washing. Okay. Because in placer, dry washing is sometimes extraordinarily effective.
Well, it'll tell you, if nothing else, that you have gold. And if you're getting good results with dry washing, then of course water is only going to make the results better, more than likely.
Yeah. And you can bring back some of your tailings where you're getting gold in the cons, bring back some tailings and pan them down, see if you're losing any.
Right. What are you losing for fine?
Yeah, because when I was with I Break for Bedrock on that one project there, they weren't losing anything in the tailings. 0.02 ounces per ton, and they were getting, better than 1/10 of an ounce per ton recovered. It was just really weird. And this was bedrock. This wasn't even placer. But it is possible. Yeah, Jeff, if it's a little bit moist, you have the possibility of spreading it in the sun and letting it dry.
Yep, tarp it out for a day if you have to.
Something like that.
We've done that. We've used a dry washer that way, where we were having to let the dirt air out before we could actually run it that way. But
now, classification is also a way to get some sort of a concentrate.
Yeah.
Depends on how much coarse and how much fine or whatever's in it. As a general rule, I like to make a concentration ratio of somewhere between 10 and 100 to 1 if possible.
right.
And screening, unless you did it to something like 16 mesh or something, you're probably only going to get about a 5 to 1 ratio out of it or something. Depends on the material.
It down to 12 mesh.
Yeah.
Just to try to just get the fine stuff to see what are you doing.
Yeah, you're right. But hiking a half a mile is no way to move a lot of material. That's just not very plausible, especially if it's on anything that's really flat ground or just a gentle downgrade slope. I know I've done it.
Yeah, me too. And I've walked
Too
a lot
many
more than
times.
half a mile to do it too.
Yeah. But I'd say if you can screen it, that's a good way. Especially if you can be confident that the gold is pretty fine. On the other hand, if it's so damp that it won't dry wash, how well is it going to dry screen also? That's a question you'd have to check out.
That's a good idea, Terry.
Yeah. Hey, Lito, how's it going? Um, so, and things like, wheelbarrows, carts, things like that can also be effective in the right circumstance. They don't work on rough terrain, but if you have smooth terrain or a trail, they can work pretty good. I mean,
A game cart on a trail. If you have, you don't really need two people almost really to do it effectively.
yes, Lito, I did get the pictures of the garden. That's a pretty awesome garden there. And the rock, it's obviously a rounded river cobble. My guess would be quartzite, because it's just, the right hardness, the right surface texture. It's got a little bit of banding, and there may even be a couple of bugs in there. If you take a look at that, you can see there's a couple of cavities, which may be bugs or it may just be mineral grains that have been knocked out. But it looks to me like a quartzite. Does it scratch with a knife or does it grind the knife off? Yes, Mohammed, I agree. Larger wheels and sometimes a little wider wheel too. Like the difference between, say, a 10-speed tire and a mountain bike. Just that little extra width will also make it reduce the rolling friction substantially. And if you're using an inflatable tire, crank the pressure up to the appropriate thing. If you're going over fairly smooth ground, crank that pressure up. If it's a little bumpy, sometimes a little down, so it kind of rolls over the bumps a little better. Try different things and see what works best for you. But adjust the air pressure and the tire width too. You mean like a flat bottom sled, like some of these inexpensive toboggan sort of things? Something of that shape, although probably heavier than that.
Yeah, we got plenty of logs.
Upland region on top of the ground at a high altitude. Well, that doesn't, I can tell you, that's a rounded river cobble. Because you just don't get that any other way.
Well, Wyoming, the geology of Wyoming is interesting because the crust of the earth is literally tipped vertical in a big area that along South Pass and all the way down.
I'm going to try and bring up that photo so Jim can look at it. I don't think we're going to lose anybody here. They should be able to still see
Wyoming's got some bizarre geology. Take a peek at this.
Yep. Come on. You can do it. That's right, Outlook. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Typical rounded river cobble.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of banding. You can see the graininess of it. So I'd say that's probably a quartzite. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Good picture too.
Yeah. Take a look at his garden.
Yeah.
That's a garden.
Big garden.
That is a big garden. Oh. But yeah, rounded river cobble. Don't know how it got up on top of a mountain, but the mountain was a lot taller at one time in the past. Jim Bybee likes a flexible flyer. Yeah, a toboggan has got runners on it and stuff like that. But they make these things, they call them snow sleds and stuff. Yeah, you can have lots of tomatoes to can, Lito.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad idea under the current
Start selling to the
circumstances.
neighborhood. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a lot of plants if you tend them right.
Yeah,
There'll be a lot of tomatoes.
they produce well, absolutely. There was a while back, several years ago, when we were getting stuff from the food bank and at a reduced price or whatever, and we'd get like a whole flat of tomatoes. For how much did we used to pay for that?
You paid $10 and you got up to 60 pounds of vegetables.
$10, 60 pounds of vegetables. And we did some canning.
They've gone up to $12 now.
Cantaloupes, yeah. I mean, when you've got the area and the inclination and waterfalls from the sky, or as cheap, it makes it
cheap irrigation.
I'll tell you what, in Tucson, it makes no sense financially to have a garden.
Well, and this year with the water levels down in most of that country, especially California, the California border area. Whoa,
Yeah, I mean,
those reservoirs are down to nothing.
the price of water in Tucson is just counterproductive there. Also, the alkalinity is such. I did a 20-foot diameter garden one time. It took me, I believe it was 3 gallons of muriatic acid to neutralize it.
To get it back.
Yep. But yeah, it's different places, different things. Let's see. Still, Kevin sent me a video on using hydrogen peroxide, helping in the gold recovery. Haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Thank you very much. That's from Mount Baker. So I'm going to be looking at that and seeing if it has any
I was going to
application.
watch that one too. I've seen it online too.
I think it's more in oxidizing the
Right.
sulfides than
Yep,
it is in
right.
actually
That's what he's
extracting
doing.
the
That's
gold.
exactly. I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing. Yeah, I didn't watch it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, Lito, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I was hoping that it was an actual leachant, but no. Cherokee just sent us a
I
thing
think I just watched that
from
one.
Live
Cherokee.
Science.
Yeah. They were talking
On-
about the why precipitated. You get big gold. It was interesting.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Cherokee. I'll look at that. But let's say Live Science is .com is the website. If anyone's interested, you can check that out.
This is a waste of hydrogen peroxide.
Okay. Well, you see, if you take some charcoal and some potassium nitrate, and yeah, I also think it'd be best if you could find a catalyst and use atmospheric oxygen. Might be the best way to do that. I mean, the big companies have been working hard to find some way of economically and efficiently oxidizing pyrites for a long time because it makes a lot of money for them. And they've tried pressure oxidation, where they basically put it in a giant pressure cooker. And they've tried biooxidation, where they use bacteria that eat sulfides. And last I heard, they still haven't come up with a magic bullet like cyanide did for gold mining in the 1800s. So that was the magic bullet. Yeah. I'm going to take just a short break here, and Jim can.
I'll have to watch it, Chris. I seen I had it on my list there of things to watch. Hey, John, 4,000, you think? I think that's low too a year from now. We'll see. Yeah, I seen that, Jeff. They were talking about New Mexico. Some of these areas, southern Colorado, man, they are dry. That's not gonna fare good for our farmers and probably our future food production in some areas. And we're getting inflation anyway, so think what that's gonna add to the inflation of the food. We were almost 100% of snowpack in this area right here. And we've had some rain and we've had some late heavy snows here. As a matter of fact, I think they have snow in the forecast for the high country for tomorrow night again, north of here. So we're water-wise right here, we're doing pretty good. But east of here, you go, I don't know, 100, 150 miles east. They've been really short of water too. Eastern Montana is really, really dry.
I can tell you from personal observation that the Missouri at Townsend
Yeah.
is high and muddy.
Well, yeah, because we just melted out though in the last 2 weeks. You know,
Yeah,
we started to lose this.
It's rocking.
Most of the time, John, I've tried to find private buyers if I can. There's some gold dealers that I don't know if they smelt their own bars and stack them or what they do, but I've kind of always tried to go that direction. If you go to, there's plenty of mints, there's plenty of guys who will buy gold. There's no shortage of buyers. It's, you know, hardest thing's getting gold out of the ground. But I just didn't like getting 80 or 85% of spot for my gold, so I tried to find guys that would pay me close to spot, and I actually had some out-of-state buyers that would go in for a few years there. They were actually paying me 100 over whatever spot was at. So I was doing, yeah, for placer gold. So I was doing really, really well with private gold buyers.
Yeah, we won't be able to do that with the hard rock.
Well,
The stuff we got here, I mean, I don't, you know. 'cause
yeah, I mean, if
it's
you
just too
have
fine.
to send it, yeah, if you have to have it done somewhere. Well, although a lot of those guys have buyers, or
Right.
yeah, they can hand you your product back, or you can take it, you know,
Mhm.
payout on it.
Yeah, that all depends on whether you want to put it away in the, you know, and not pay taxes on it legally, or whether you need to cash it in for.
Well, we always had operating expenses, so we had to continually sell to, you know, pay the diesel bill and the oil and filters and whatever come at you next. You know, engine repairs.
I don't know, Mr. Lodak. That's a good question. How many Utah people do we have here tonight?
They're taking over.
We got a total of 26 showing on my screen right here.
Okay.
By the way, I wonder what microphone. Let's see if this one is that. No, it still won't take the external mic. Don't know why.
Yeah, that's good sound.
It's got a green light on it. I don't know. I tried cycling it over there. Got the external camera, but not the external mic. We got one, maybe two. I hear three. One from Utah. Number 3. Yeah, I tried to get an external mic, but the computer can't seem to find it. It's very annoying. Yeah, Jeff Bybee, I think, is number 3. Let's see. Cedar City, okay. Yeah.
So 3 anyway. We got 3 from Utah.
No, I apologize for the microphone, but I can't do anything because I'm not the geek to figure out why YouTube can't find that stupid microphone. I don't know why. All I can find is the one on this computer. Well, of course we are. I'm not smart enough to run Linux or something like that. So, yeah, it's very, very frustrating. I'm going to start trying to download some of my better videos and stuff, and stockpile them to get on another platform. But I don't know. Some of them, you know, they're pay platform. In other words, to be a subscriber, you'd have to pay a certain amount of money. Well, yeah, Bob, I don't disagree that there's better operating systems, but then you got to be even smarter when it comes to electronics. To me, electronics are kind of like working on cars. Yeah, it has to be done, but I'd rather somebody else do it. And I can't even work on computers like I can on cars. You know?
You beat me to it, Bear.
Yeah, so I can. I have to have help on these stupid things. Let's
And
see.
I know better.
Oh, your videos did come through, by the way.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't had
Someday
again.
we'll-
Somebody else haven't had a chance.
I shot another one here. I was up looking at another mine. Kind of neat footage, but I went and did the history on the mine because it was interesting looking rock, and I took some samples, but it was a phosphate and fluoride mine.
The Phosphoria
Yeah,
formation.
yep. And operated, I don't know, sometime in the 1960s, I guess.
No, the thing is, the ones you sent me, they're all like this big on the screen. So I think that's how they're compressed. They basically reduce the size and the resolution. So I don't know how well that's going to show
As
up.
far as looking at them after they were compressed, it didn't seem to make too much difference.
That's it. I will find out
And we'll have to
try and play with it. Yeah, I've got the truck. I got to get, I need new spring bushings on the front end of the truck, and I got these samples to do. So I'll be hanging around town for a while. But I'd like to get back out in the field here as soon as possible. Maybe next week before we can manage that. I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff to get done.
Now, it looks like rain for the later part of the week, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
We'll see. I don't care. I work. Oh, I heard something funny the other day. You know how we got this thing 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
right? This guy was from Israel. He says, "Here in Israel, it's 24/6." I thought that was hilarious, man. You might be right, Bob. Again, I've already got more things than I can possibly accomplish. And every time in the past that I have ever tried to do something new on a computer, it's always been an unpleasant experience. Usually not a quick one either. You know, it's not like getting my hand slapped with a ruler. It's like just torture for weeks until I finally get the new system figured out.
I think it's this microphone, actually, Jeff, more than it's anything.
I have no clue what it is.
Because this microphone will kind of cut in and out. You
Let's see
can
where the
kind of watch
microphone
it.
is. I got a flinch there. I mean, I've really got to do the thing here. Yes, I know, Bob. I've got a USB mic. It's right here. You can see it. I can see it. YouTube can't see it.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
it'll hook to the computer.
YouTube can see it. We can even select it, and then
Yeah, that's
YouTube
right.
ignores the selection.
It's on the selection thing, and I select it, and nothing happens. I deselect, reselect, nothing happens. I deselect, nothing happens. No matter what I do, that mic and YouTube don't want to have anything to do with each other. Yeah, funny, Chris. Hilarious. Ha ha ha.
Ergon's got a question.
Okay.
Identify sulfide ore with gravity set.
It's actually usually pretty easy, Argonaut, because Good sulfide ores are usually very sparkly. I mean, they're shiny silver, shiny yellow if it's chalcopyrite. And also they have a density. When you're panning,
It's heavy.
you can see that they're heavy, but they're not as heavy as the gold is. And they will behave significantly differently than gold of the same particle size will. And hey, Rick, how's it going?
Hey, Rick.
And so once you've actually panned some, you can see where they wind up in the pan, and they'll typically be above the iron oxides, right? And sometimes there will be other stuff that's heavier, but it's pretty rare. Usually about the only thing heavier than the sulfides is the gold.
It's a comedy.
We saw a dog today that was riding on the platform on the back of a quad in the Labrador, and that thing was unrestrained and was like surfing that damn quad. He was just having such a great time.
Bouncing back and forth. He had his front legs planted. He was bouncing his rear end back and
Just
forth
tipping.
and grinning
Yep.
all over his
That's how
face.
my blue healer was. She loved the faster.
You're
you
welcome,
went.
Argonaut. I think
She used to
when
ride
you
on
see
the
him, it'll be pretty
motorcycle
obvious
with me.
usually.
She just loved it. The faster we went, the more she loved it.
Yeah, I agree, BR. Just
It
plain
was
water.
so funny. I mean, that black lab was just grinning.
We just having a good old time. He or she, I didn't look. But yeah, we were trying a different route to exfiltrate from where we were at, and I thought since there were some quads coming the other way, it would be a good idea to ask, is this somewhere around as passable as the route we came in on, or are we just headed into disaster? You know?
Some roads are. a
And
disaster.
it actually was worse. I was surprised because the road we come in on was not very good. But this was actually worse, mainly because there were some steeper side hills. And you know, when you got that big camper on the back,
Oh, yeah.
side hills feel sketchier than hell.
Yeah,
You know?
little top heavy there.
Yeah, it is. It's
Going over.
especially when you got worn spring shackle bushing.
Yeah.
Well, worn isn't the exact word. Like on the driver's side, non-existent bushing. I mean, you've got the metal inner sleeve and the outer inner, metal sleeve, but the rubber thingy in the middle seems to be gone. You know, and that's yeah. And when we're going down the road, you can actually feel the steering shift
Yeah,
as
right.
the spring.
Yeah, that's what I was
All of a sudden, it
asking
tries to
earlier.
take you off the side of the hill a little bit. Yeah, there was a couple times where it's like, no. Yeah, it was better than these. Eva was the one that was totally freaked out by your road. You know, I just look, yours is a little bumpy. This one's a little sketchy in places. But it'd be nice if we could find some relatively easy way to get in there. But I don't think that's going to happen because all the routes that are relatively short from the pavement are unpleasant, and the only other routes come many more miles from pavement through higher country. It'd be fun to drive just for the hell of it, but I don't have the money or time for that.
Yeah, that's what I told him, Lars.
Well, I'm going to see what a local shop will charge me because I don't have a shop, I don't have tools and stuff, so it'd be best if somebody else will do it for a reasonable price. I'm thinking with an old 76 Chevy, we're probably looking at about 3 or 4 hours of labor to replace those 4 bushings. We'll see.
The easiest way to test sulfide.
With the presence of gold.
Burn
Man, if you roast them and then regrind them, and then pan that using the microfine technique, that would be about the best field test.
for a test.
Now you could use a test where you dissolve it and then use a precipitant. What was that one? Tin When it turns it purple. Chris knows.
I'll give you the
I don't intend to bash them if I can avoid it, Chris.
answer.
Okay? See? Bashing. It would hurt. What is that? Is it a tin? Gosh, I forget the name of that stuff. But anyhow, yeah, we precipitate. You can dissolve it in aqua regia and then precipitate it. I think it was tin something or other. And it'll give you a calorimetric test.
I would burn them, like you said, heat them, roast them good,
And then
and
regrind
then
it,
regrind it,
and then pan
and
it.
then pan it and see if you're, if you're finding gold, then you may want to take it a step further or have it assayed to see if the values are higher than what you're seeing.
Yeah, that's the most reliable way.
Right, but
Is to have it acid.
that's the quickest is to take the torch, and a propane torch will even work. It's slower because you don't have the heat, but roast them out in a metal pan. Don't breathe it, get upwind of it.
Yeah, definitely.
But roast them and they'll turn to rust. It'll really oxidize fairly fast by heating them red hot and then letting them cool down and then regrinding them.
You ever heated them red hot and then just bathed them in pure oxygen
No,
from the torch?
no, I've
It'd be an
never done
interesting
that.
test.
That would give you more oxygen. I mean, that would
Yeah.
definitely.
See, once they're hot enough, they should kind of ignite. It's kind of like burning steel.
Right.
Once you get it hot enough, you hit oxygen to it, it just ignites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you found any gold yet there? Well, yeah, we found gold several places. Montana B area. We've got the Montana B prospect itself, which has ore grade material, and then when I'm trying to keep track of everything. Further south along that same area, there was also places where we had dumps that were running potential ore grade. And then this other spot, this Montana M, which is awesome serpentine. I wish it had a better road. But it's got low grade in the dump, whether it's ore grade or not. I mean, if that was near a source of water and easily permittable, yeah, no problem. But where it's at, and on national forest land, you're either going to have to haul water to it or haul it to water, one or the other. And that doesn't seem feasible right now. Although, when I was wandering about putting in flame stakes, I did find there are water lines to some stock tanks up there. So it may be theoretically possible to work a deal with a rancher who has grazing rights there or something, but again, not today's permitting environment, I don't believe. When I roast, I get black iron. Yeah, that's why you need to regrind it.
Yep.
In general, regrind it and then pan it. Yeah, I never used induction heating. No.
I haven't either, Bob. I've seen some guys use induction heating, and it looks like it'd work as good as using, gas furnace.
Yeah, I've had both red and black. Usually, probably more red from what I've done.
Or it can be gray, blue steel kind of.
Yeah, it varies.
Yeah,
What else is in there?
That's where you want to regrind it, though. Once you've heated it and oxidized it, you want to regrind it.
Yeah, definitely, because the gold is still stuck in there.
As far as I actually found some gold the other day. I took a 5-pound just kind of grab sample out of a little area I was looking at, and went home and threw it through the little impact mill, screened it down to 12, and panned it out. And I was amazed. There was quite a few colors, probably 40 colors in the pan, and almost a little piece there. And I'm like, okay, I got to go back there and get about 500 pounds of that to run and see what happens when I do a bigger sample.
Lido, yes, there was a picture that could have been for a pond, although it was shallow enough. I thought it was mainly used clearing to apply topsoil for the garden. And Chris says induction furnaces are sensitive to the size and mineralogy of the crush. Not surprising, but I'm not sure exactly why. I believe the induction heating requires conductivity, and so if it's a non-conductive material, I don't think it'll induction heat. Yeah, okay, well then that was probably the pond site there, because it looked more round than your garden, but I thought it was like a preliminary thing. Well, aren't you the braggy one? No clay, no rocks, just topsoil. Okay. Yeah. Um, but I would imagine, I know that, for example, in large quantities, they use enriched oxygen flash furnaces for sulfides to roast them and to actually to smelt them down. They're using in the low 40% oxygen. They have their own oxygen plant. They enrich the air and everything. And one of the big advantages of that was not only was it more efficient, but the flue gas had so much sulfur in it that you could easily convert it into sulfuric acid. Economically, and then sell the sulfuric acid. Right? So you were preventing pollution and making money at the same time.
Right, create a product.
Which we call a win-win.
Yeah.
There you go. And then the water from the fish can go to the garden, exactly. Good nutrition. But
Aquaponics.
yeah. So I would like to experiment with an oxyacetylene torch sometime and see if how well that would work. Looks like what he's trying to do. Yeah, that I don't know how efficient induction is, Bob, in terms of
Hold on a second.
the actual efficiency of conversion of electricity to heat. But I've seen videos where they're using it commercially, to heat metal parts for welding and stuff, and it seems to work pretty good. And if you got it going right, so it should work. But up till now, I think pretty much it's just using fossil fuel in air as your main heat source. Well, it wouldn't be surprising. I mean, blast furnaces, it's just coke, carbon. Let's see. So, I say I suppose you could use fluidized bed conversion in a smelter too, where you mix, let's say, like coal with it. But I haven't heard of any. And so that's one thing with the enriched oxygen flash furnace. That's pretty standard technology now. So I am not going to have to deal with any sulfides and anything I'm looking at right now. We have the iron oxides. Probably a depth you've run into sulfides. But I'm running into more and more of what we would call the pack rat structures over by Montana Beach. These are, if you have your sedimentary layers, these are between the sedimentary layers. And then we have what we call the perpendicular veins, which are across the sedimentary layers and they're vertical. And I'll say it seems like more and more it's the pack rat type structures they were actually mining. Some of the perpendicular ones, were mined, but I don't know how effective that was. Looks like they're somewhat lower grade. So,
Hey, Lito, I did that back in Minnesota. We had some ponds that we bought fingerlings out of Missouri, I believe, channel cats. And within the age of the summer, we were able to have a lot of those catfish up to about 1.75 pounds. We were feeding them too, but that was a test that we did back in the 1980s for the University of Minnesota, looking at aquaculture, we're raising fish, and it was quite a kind of a neat deal.
any issues with too much or too little silica in the sulfide ore when sent to a smelter or refinery? Probably depends on the smelter or refinery and what they're otherwise doing. I know in the copper smelters they wanted the silica. That's what they would buy
They
it,
didn't want
so they
the
get
iron.
free silver. Yeah, they give you credits for gold and silver just to get the silica from it. I suspect it's like everything else in mining. It depends on the situation. Probably whatever they're smelting. For example, I know that in some cases they wanted iron in the feeds.
And then sometimes they didn't.
And sometimes they did.
They didn't. If you had too much iron oxide or something, then they didn't want it. It depended on the other ore they were running with the ore, mixing, blending.
Yeah, they're trying to create a certain chemistry, and that would depend on what they are starting with and what you have to add to it to get the chemistry they're looking for. And I'm not an expert in smelter science, and it is a science. So I don't know, but any smelter will be able to tell you what they will give you credits for and what they will debit for. For example, there will be certain other things like arsenic, which is going to cost you money. Depending on how much you may not be able to get it done at all because of the environmental regulations. And I suspect that this whole regulatory environment is in flux right now too, because the situation is pretty untenable.
Well, yeah, when you look at, like we were talking earlier, what Montana was capable of turning out, and this was the gravy. The gold and silver that the early guys took out was the easiest stuff to get to. And at the point it got to hard rock mining or actual investment, some of those mines succeeded, some just ended because they couldn't get the money. The stock market collapsed in the United States in 1890, 1891. The banks failed
Price
here.
of silver did too.
Yep, the silver price collapsed, and a lot of things stopped operating and never actually came back. So, this still is the treasure state, and Colorado's still got a lot of gold and silver, and Nevada and Arizona, and, all the other states. Idaho's got a lot of silver. It's going to come back at some point if we can get past this government regulating. I mean, for some reason, they want no good investment in this country. And it was to break us, I think.
I'm not sure what the motivation is, but it's clear that the effect of their policies is going to basically to shut down as much mining as possible. I mean, they've even revoked permits from big mining corporations.
Or put them in legal, nightmares and entanglements. And they've done it with the timber industry. They're pushing on the cattle industry, but they're getting enough fight yet out of the cattle guys.
I just don't see it continuing.
But my father had a machine shop, and my brother had a machine shop, and mold building. And when Clinton sold us out in the 90s, those businesses all went to China, and those were all high-paid guys. Most of my dad's guys back in the 80s and that were making $80,000 to $100,000 a year as tool makers. They made damn good money. And we don't have jobs like that now. I mean, a few guys that work privately or have a little shop with 3 guys working still make some money, but you don't have any of those big operations here in the States.
Well,
You know, Boeing, you have the aircraft industry, I'll give you that, but you know, they've chased out so much that made America America.
and it's, let's say, I just don't see the situation being stable at all. And I see it going one of two ways. You could either have somewhat of a collapse scenario where, due to the whole system just kind of falling apart, you no longer have regulation because there's no effective enforcement mechanism. Or you could get people changing the system to be more encouraging to production and it becoming easier that way. The one thing I don't see extending off into the indefinite future is no, you can't do anything, because pretty soon people are going to say, oh yeah, make me. And that's when the government agents heading out into the hinterland and the wilderness to enforce regulations that nobody around wants them to enforce start being very difficult to get life insurance. That would be a very unfortunate thing. But nevertheless, we're talking reality here. And as BR says, wilderness areas alone spit out thousands of good months. Absolutely. Does anyone know anything about nano clay to make sand fertile? Not that I know of.
The Chinese probably do.
Why would magnetite be a better feedstock than?
High-grade steel.
Well, yeah, but why would magnetite be better than hematite?
I don't know. The magnetite's easy enough to pull out most of the time because of the it's magnetic, really magnetic.
Not sure exactly what you meant by that, Lito. I'm not sure if you meant to type it in like that. Is it possible to use a very rough chemical acid using nitric acid that leaves just the gold behind? I would think it'd be more the other way, that you dissolve the gold first and then precipitate it, and then recover the precipitate. By doing that, I think you probably could. There's a book, Refining and Recovery of the Precious Metals by C.W. Amen, A-M-M-E-N, that gives you a methodology for doing metallurgical fractional extractions from alloys and things like that. I don't think he gave it for raw ores, but to get from a raw ore to a mixture of metals and solution probably wouldn't be too difficult. And I know that Argonaut, I used to do an assay where I started with chloronitric acid, which is nothing more than dilute aqua regia. I think it was about a 2 or 3 to 1 dilution on aqua regia with water. Then I would take that material, that solution, and react and contact it with methyl isobutyl ketone, MIBK for short, which will selectively attract the gold into it. Then you rinse the MIBK with just plain water to get some of the other stuff that's not as thoroughly attracted rinsed out. And then I could take the MIBK containing the gold ions, the gold chloride ions, and evaporate that over some more chloronitric acid, which I would then fill a pipette with and stick on a piece of, it was a paper used to determine the amount of silver in photographic solutions. And it would precipitate the gold, and my sensitivity was 0.01 ounces per ton, and the repeatability was good, and the precision was good. I mean, I can tell you the difference between 0.01 and 0.02. Because it was the color density of the spot, and then once you got enough, then it became the size of the spot. But so that's a definite way that we do that as a method of assay. Okay, and you could apply it to any volume you wanted. I think I was doing like 10-gram samples. And would it work with sulfides or tellurides? You might have to throw in some nitric first to break those down. I'm not sure. But the MIBK is a very, very specific attractant to the gold fluoride ion. They use it when they're using atomic absorption spectrophotometry. They'll take the aqua regia solution and contact it with the MIBK, then rinse the MIBK, and then they can just directly introduce the MIBK into the AA machine, and it will work just fine. But that was a way of doing it at the time that gave me a darn sensitive assay. I found out in general it's easier just to do the hand panning once you've got the appropriate adjustment factors, but the MIBK and aqua regia digestion also has some kind of interference in it that sometimes I get a result that was about 1/10 of what it should be, which is why I kind of discontinued, because I couldn't really tell. Because I get the same thing with the pan, but I don't have to deal with toxic chemicals and stuff like that. So that was what I was doing, and it was, I forget what the stuff was. If you go on the internet and look up American Society for Advancement of Technology, or ASAT, they were out of Silver City, New Mexico, and it was something like a semi-quantitative assay method for gold. And it showed basically the paper itself. And what I did was, they were just dipping the paper in. Well, it has to be pretty rich to do that. But if you take a capillary tube, which holds a volume, and distributes it out of a very small aperture, and then just stand that on the paper, as it goes through the paper, it will precipitate the gold, and the dot comprising the diameter of the end of the capillary tube will get darker and darker and darker until such point as it's almost black. And at that point, it's not precipitating the gold anymore, it's completely reactive, and the dot actually starts becoming larger. But that worked out pretty well. Let's see. Okay, Argonaut. Yeah, if you can't find it, I might be able to, but at this point, you're probably as likely as I am. But it was quick. It took about 30 minutes of digestion. Then I was just using little film canisters. Put the acid and sample in there, shake it up, let it sit for a while. By the way, if there's limestone in there, there's another problem you have. It will neutralize your acid. But once you've got it dissolved and in the MIBK, then it would not react with the paper from the MIBK, so I had to evaporate the MIBK back over some more chloronitric acid to get that reaction to occur with the paper. But on the other hand, whenever I was making one of these transfers from one to the other, I could use 2 volumes of the starting liquid to 1 volume of the end liquid and get a 2-to-1 concentration also. So what the heck? Let's see. Yeah, I don't see any more.
soil, creating soil there, so. that's
Yeah,
all
which is
that's going
fine.
on there.
But yeah, that was a very useful method that worked most of the time. Worked pretty simply. You could be running many at a whack. I mean, I could do 10 at a time and get them all done in less than 2 hours. Let's say with a sensitivity of 0.01 ounces per ton. So that might be what you want. I haven't really worried about it lately because I've got other methods. But if you needed to do a digestion, say like out at Montana B, we might bring that back into line. Yeah, thanks for kind of reminding me of that. But yeah, it worked pretty well. Oh. So let's see. I can't think of any other real newsworthy stuff. Who was it that had the $4,000 gold price? That was not one of our
A new guy.
We got, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said I'm thinking that's probably
I think that's cheap, yeah.
if
I would say 5 myself.
I'm thinking more like 5 in a couple of
I
years.
think we'll see $5,000 gold.
And I'm thinking that if you see the price of gold escalate and the regulatory environment ameliorate, you're looking for a big expansion in gold mining.
Yeah, but that, you know what that would do for the economy?
Up here a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, the guy at Napa here that I dealt with all the time told me one day, he said, I wish I had 100 guys like you. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. But, you know, we're in there doing hydraulic hoses and filters and, you know, inner tubes, whatever you name it, we were getting oil. You know, we're always getting something. And
Absolutely.
and he said, if I had 100 customers like you, this place would be, you know, quite the place.
Yeah.
Because he got to know me. He knew what I was doing because I'd order boxes of filters, hydraulic filters, and oil filters. And he's like, "Wow, you know, it's amazing. One small operation, and you guys are doing, you know, a phenomenal amount of business with us."
Yeah. Well, say if you were to increase the price of gold by a factor of 4, then all of a sudden a lot of stuff that I've been looking at up here becomes a lot easier to make money.
Closer to profitability.
Yeah, or definitely into profitability.
Right.
That sort of thing. Again, we're still looking at
It'd
the
be nice to get some infrastructure, you know, some small
yeah.
small operation or small plants that would, you know, are capable of doing smaller production than,
We could
you
just
know,
do sign
500 tons an hour.
That's why I'm hoping these guys from Australia, I hope that bio leach works pretty well. Because if it does, that just opens up a lot of possibilities too. Because that's one of the big problems with hard rock. You've got to have something that can deal with the real fine gold. Now, you know, this is where I hope that Prospect M, it's got coarser gold. It looks a lot more like Ryan's stuff down there in Tucson, or even coarser. So that's why I'm going to do some more testing on this. That's why I got the 350 pounds of dump material, is to do some bulk tests.
Lito, my suggestion as a farmer who played around with compost a lot would be to compost those wood chips before you blend them into the soil. Put a sprinkler on them, get them really good and wet, take your tractor and loader, keep flipping them about once a week or once every 10 days, wet them down again, get the bacteria working in them really, really good so that they really start to degrade. Otherwise, the wood chips will take away some of the nutrients from your plant. If you're going to try to mix them into the garden or that, wood chips aren't really the best idea. They will hold moisture, but they will take away some of the nutrients that are in the soil or that you're trying to get for your crop.
Okay, I'll go with that. I have no idea. The raining cats and dogs, huh?
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be
here.
coming here. Well, we're supposed to get it the next couple of days.
Well, like,
Well, let's see if it gets over the mountain.
it'll be about the time I get those buckets sitting out there on the ranch. And this stuff from that Prospect M, it just breaks down to clay. I mean, I had to use a pick to break up the dump so I could shovel it. Not because there was rocks, because it was just compacted clay. Yeah.
So you suppose that was something they were dynamiting and hauling out onto the dump?
No, I mean, this is the whole dump. You know, there's some area there that's a white rock, but the vast majority, 95+% is this kind of brownish, clayish looking stuff.
And when Bear panned it, he got some pretty coarse gold out of that one, if I remember correctly.
So that's why I'm looking at just mechanically agitating it with water, screening it and then panning it so that I've got coarse particles left over, and then the slimes, and then seeing where the gold is, because it could be that you don't even need to crush that down. You just need to break it up. Don't know.
They're still working on it.
Yeah, Chris,
Fertilization.
that seems to be it. This dump's probably 100 years or more old because it's got lichen on the harder rocks off to one side. It's got lichen, and that takes a long time to build up. So it has had time to decay. Strangely enough, the stuff at the far end of the dump looks more broken down than the stuff closer to the portal. Some of it may be physically, because the damn elk seem to use this as a ramp to go down. I mean, it's beaten up, Okay, Muhammad says, how do you know what speed to turn your trommel? Obviously, a you question.
A trommel should only be turning at about 10 or 12 revolutions a minute. You don't want it so fast that it's just throwing the rocks. You want the rocks to roll over and drop. So you want a little bit of climb, and if you get it going too fast, they climb too far and smash to the bottom. And you don't get the separation. You're trying to get the fines, of course, washed out of those rocks. So you want a speed that just a nice constant rotation in there.
So basically, the material is rolling over.
Right. Most trommels, if you count the revolutions, you're going to be somewhere between 9 and 12.
Look inside and watch the material. It should kind of come up and then roll like a breaking wave.
Right, huh? And flip. Even if there's some lifter bars in there, that's okay. But you want them to flip so they're getting washed all the way around, and not at such a speed that you're not getting your fines to go up, into your sluice pots or your recovery underneath your trommel.
Six-inch diameter. I think the visual is what as you're turning the trommel, the material should come up and then kind of cascade down smoothly, instead of being taken up so high that it falls.
And when you're looking in the back end of the trommel should be running counterclockwise. And people will say it shouldn't make any difference, and that's not true, because we tested it. Matter of fact, it took a couple cases of beer and all night to figure that one out. But if you turn it clockwise, and I don't know why, at least in this hemisphere, if you turn it clockwise, the rocks go through the trommel faster than if it goes counterclockwise.
That's the only difference you did, huh?
Yeah, we tried it, and we changed the pitch on the trommel, and we did this all night. My buddy Mike and I were like, it shouldn't make any difference, and it does. If it's running counterclockwise for some reason, the rocks go through it slower than if it's running clockwise. And why that is, evidently it's above my pay grade, but it's true.
I don't know. I can't see any reason why it makes a difference.
It shouldn't make any difference.
There must have been some thing in the trommel itself that was an asymmetric engineering thing.
No, it is. No, it isn't. We had basically, we were building a trommel, And we went out and I had another one in the yard and we went and played with it. And it ran counterclockwise. And I started looking at other guys' operations, and most of the trommels that are, pretty nice setups and how they're running counterclockwise. And it's like, why?
I would agree, Mohammed, that too slow is better than too fast.
You want it fast enough, you've got some rollover and segregation. It's starting to move those rocks.
It should act more like a liquid than
being
solid.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want centrifugal force. The point is carrying rocks all the way around in it.
Now, Mohammed suggests, was it the position of your spray bar or the spray itself? Could that have been asymmetrical?
No. We weren't even running water. We were taking rocks and feeding them into the trommel by hand, and trying different revolution speeds, and counterclockwise or clockwise, and it makes a difference. Counterclockwise, the rocks will feed through slower, get washed better, of course, before they're getting cast out.
Okay, Chris has
yeah, Dave. That's
which
Chris
side,
probably knows why.
which side the motor sits can change things, and what was the punch pattern of the hole?
It was punch plate, Chris, so
Yeah.
it was smooth. The whole inside was, at that point, was just smooth, short of the holes.
And
that
Jeff
were
has a
punched.
real important question. Counterclockwise from which end?
Looking into the trommel from the far end.
Okay.
It should turn counterclockwise, backwards.
Hey, Volca Bear. Weird stuff. I mean, I can't imagine that it would make a difference.
I argued it too, and Mike's like, watch. And we did it, and we did it again, and then we're like, okay, let's reverse everything and run it the other way.
Are you
And-
sure he wasn't adjusting something when you were looking?
It was, honest to God, we spent a whole night in the shop trying to figure out why it makes a difference, and we never could, but it makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, Mohammed. Again, you just have to look, because different stuff behaves differently. Like you had that fine stuff that you gave me when we were testing
Yep.
the mill.
Yeah.
Man, did you see how fast it flowed compared to the crushed rock I was using?
Yep.
Because it's grounded particles.
Yeah,
Because
it's gonna flow
plastic.
different, right?
And it just, yeah. And so you just have to look and see how it works. Yeah, I don't think the Coriolis effect is sufficient for that, but I don't know. After you've had enough beers, which way does the room spin? Clockwise or counterclockwise? I suppose that depends on whether the woman you just talked to is right-handed or left-handed.
No, it doesn't. It depends on whether you are north or south of the equator.
I don't know why it made a difference, but it did, because we tried the feed rate, played with it all night long there.
Jeff says the 8 trommels around him all turn the same direction. I don't know. I haven't been able to test this, but
I don't know either, and I've never seen anybody who wrote about it, but that was one thing I learned when we were building a new one.
well, anyone that wrote about it would lose his credibility.
Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I just lost mine, but it made a difference in how fast the rock sped through it.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have. When we tried a couple different materials out of the yard to see if it, what's making a difference. And because you want to retain the material in the trommel as long as you can to get it thoroughly washed without really affecting your feed rate too much as far as production. But it made a difference.
Yeah.
And why, I don't know.
Well, the operative question here is, do trommels south of the equator?
That was my
spin
question,
clockwise?
I guess I never had the chance to ask somebody in
That would be an
Australia or
expensive
somewhere
test
else
to
on the
run.
other end of the world.
Huh.
That's the operative question here.
Yeah, that's interesting, Jeff. You might ask the guys around you and see
I'm
if
not
they've
sure if
observed it
anybody
or not.
knows. I'm not sure if anybody actually knows the answer, but, you know, my other question is if you're in Australia, if it runs clockwise, does that make a difference?
Mohammed, would punch plate work better than wire mesh to stop grass and
No.
roots clogging?
No,
Does-
no.
Compared to a wire mesh.
It'll still carry that stuff in there and plug holes. It won't make a big, it may make some difference, but it won't be significant. If you're having that material, organic material plugging up stuff and hanging, you're gonna get that no matter what you're running for screens in a trommel.
From Stone Mountain. Is that like in the southeast there, Stone Mountain? To
It's
Houston?
in Georgia. Hey,
Yeah, Chris, that is the ultimate way to have it, is have a long washing cycle going to a shorter screen cycle. And the thing is where you get your alternating sections, or sections between your alternating lifters,
Yeah.
you got to be a little careful because if you get it plugged up too much, you create a cement mixer instead of a trommel. And I've had to go in the trommel and take the torch and cut out sections to let some of the aggregate through because it'll just sit in there and it won't climb out. Even with a decent feed rate, it'll just carry so much material that it makes it hard on the trommel.
Alita says near Atlanta.
I told you it was Georgia.
Running topsoil. BR suggested actually the earth was flat, so there's no difference.
I don't know.
Oh, one of those types, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Lodak suggests that if you can get deeper, Mohammed, that it might work better.
Yeah, get out of that grass and roots.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
Well, Lito, all you got to do is, if you're a surveyor, you have to take into account the curvature of the earth. Even long distance shooters, I mean, I'm not even talking artillery or whatever, but they've got to take into account Coriolis effect.
I love it.
Maybe what you're getting is what's typically called flood gold, Mohammed. During the very high water times, the finer gold is pretty much distributed everywhere, and that's where the grass and plants will just really act like miner's moss. Have you found any bedrock with crevices in it where you can check that instead and see whether there's more gold, whether it's coarser gold, things like that? Sometimes you have areas where you only have flood gold. Let's see. Oh, let me get some water here.
Oh.
Oh. You gotta drink Keto there.
I did some when I came home with them.
Okay.
You get some calories too.
That would probably be a good idea.
God damn it. Come on. Yeah, if you got that much vegetative matter there, I would say that's what you're getting is that flood gold or float gold that came in on high water.
Don't forget to put yogurt in there.
Already did, little one. So for those of you who want to know, do I know how to cook? We were just out in the field for 3 days. I gained 2 pounds. I know how to cook. Let's see.
You gained 2 pounds and now you're eating whipped cream.
No, I mean yogurt, whipped cream, and brownies.
Who's got some good questions? We need some more good questions. Your pork and beans is not cooking.
No, what,
We don't eat pork.
before I leave, we call it hamburger crumbles. Hamburger, sausage, bacon, all cooked up into basically crumbles. And then when we're out in the field, we just, pour some into a pan, heat it up, put gravy on it, put barbecue sauce on it, and have, sloppy joes. In the morning, put some eggs on it, cook up scrambled eggs. That's right, man. This boy does not like to go hungry. To Eva's annoyance.
You gotta eat when you're burning energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tortilla. Yeah.
Yep, you can put it in a tortilla, put some cheese on it, or just heat it up. And what works pretty well is just take a pan, put in a little bit of water, and kind of steam them. That'll get them hot real easy out in the field.
Yeah, right now he is eating yogurt, whipped cream, and a mashed up brownie.
Yep, pretty much. Sounds good to me. The other thing we often do is we go get chicken leg quarters, and they're like, I don't know, 65 cents a pound or something like that. And I'll bake them up, and we'll take them with us and, have those just right off the bone. Works pretty good.
That can be an issue.
That can be trouble. Yeah. Mohammed.
Part of a way around that, Mohammed, is if you take and dig a hole and pile all your material, then set up, if you can, set up your wash plant or whatever right there and feed the material back into the hole that you dug. That answers one of those things. If you can pump water that far, otherwise, yeah, that trying to do reclamation can create a problem if you're taking the material away to water somewhere.
Now, BR says y'all have recommending small portable trommels. Now, I'm not sure what you mean by small portable, because that can cover different sizes. I know Gold Cube makes a nice little trommel designed to work with the Gold Cube.
Yeah, it's not very big though.
Yeah, it's a little dinky one.
I think it's 18 inches or something.
But it's very light, and it works pretty good
Yeah,
with
it's
the Gold Cube.
very portable.
Yeah.
Really, it's a little grizzly on it where you're feeding it. And
yeah,
that's real portable. But if you want to go a little bit bigger than that, I had a small gold claimer. They make out of up in Minnesota, and that is a pretty good little unit for, I don't know, maybe if you worked really hard, it'd give you 3 yards a day of material through it.
1 to 2 ton check, trailer mounted.
Yeah.
Size
So
trommel.
you'd want to go look up Gold Claimer. They actually advertise in the Mining Journal. I've got one that was probably one of their early ones that was built in the 80s. Nice little unit, actually. And it has a tank on it that mine does in a sand screw where you can actually reuse your water.
Mm-hmm.
So if for a little testing, it's a great little testing unit for us to pull out on the site and test with.
Yeah, there's some others out there too. I forget the brand name. They're small production units in the 5-10 ton an hour
Thanks
range.
for being here, Leto, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah, get some rest. And before I stopped using magnets, I noticed some black sands would hold a magnetic charge after removing the magnet. That would probably be magnetite, Mr. Lodak, because it could be naturally magnetic, but it certainly will hold a magnetic field.
what it is.
Yeah. That's why they call it magnetite.
No,
We're getting some kind of red rock too in the veins. I don't know if it's cinnabar or just more like ochre.
just looking to see if there's any other questions we missed as that was flying by.
Didn't see it.
Who's got another good question?
I will try and have the tinfoil hat goddess prepared next week.
All week to work.
Okay. Make sure it's in a breeze blowing the other way. Okay. I don't know if it's cinnabar or not. It's in a very high iron matrix. But it's definitely redder.
That dark green color.
Yeah.
You can't see any little spots or anything like that.
Not really.
The only cinnabar I've seen here, you literally could crush it into a pan
Uh-huh.
and stir it with some water, and you could start to get the mercury to come right out of it.
Hmm.
It was that good.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think it's probably more like ochre, but I'm not sure. But I've got a good sample of it. You know, we noticed the same phenomenon in the pack rat vein, and I don't think there was much mercury in that. I'm self-taught. My mom was a geologist. She had a master's degree. I'm mostly self-taught. I've had one semester of college geology. And you're just self-taught. Yeah.
Just self-taught.
Yeah.
I've worked with some really good guys though over the years as well. I've learned a lot from the geologists I've worked with, as well as a couple of mining engineers. And I was in the gravel business prior to this in excavating, so I had a good kind of transition from understanding composition of soils and rock and getting separation with gravels through our plants for our sand and our rock and crushing. And then to go into mining was kind of a natural, for me it was kind of a natural thing. I had a lot of geology to learn, but I spend my winters and my reading material at night or when I have time is something about rocks, usually.
Yeah. I was in open pit heap leach mining for 10 years. That's where I got started in gold. Kind of funny, my brother's working at one of the mines I
Started at, huh?
Well, not started. Well, one of the problems with being self-taught is you miss things that you don't know you've missed.
It's a never-ending learning process.
Yeah.
I'm always learning from you guys as much as from things I read and go back and double check it against something that I thought I knew. I think as far as your comment there, though, BR, I think you're a bit better by being self-taught because that's your motivation. If it's something you want to learn, there's a good chance you're going to do a better job of learning it than somebody that was taught in a classroom about it, but they didn't want to learn it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Mohammed. You don't realize what you don't know until it winds up costing you. And in, let's see, I was going to say something. Oh well, my train of thought got derailed. In flotation, what exactly do they use in the liquids? Well, as a general rule, they use an attractant, they'll use a frother, and they will use a suppressant in some cases. An attractant is a chemical that changes the surface chemistry of the mineral you're attempting to recover in such a way as to make it more attractive to the bubbles. Generally, you're making it more hydrophobic. And in the frothing, one of the more common ones is just pine oil. Think pine salt. A suppressant would be something that would make it more easily wetted so it doesn't stick to the bubbles. And Chris Georgie, it may sound funny, but it's actually the E is, I believe, ethyl. The X is xanthanate, and I forget what the S would be in that one. But PEX is another common one. As a matter of fact, underneath that folder there's a bunch of papers on the floor. Maybe underneath that thing where my, there we go. See a bunch of papers stapled together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Underneath this pile.
Yeah. That's it. So for example, here we have reagent types and flotation of iron oxide minerals, a review. And this is just a review. Let's see, C8, C10 ether, amine acetate, ethyramine. You know, and there's trade names. They have a lot of materials. But for example, the collector type primary ethyramine, the mineral that would float would be silica. Fatty acids, iron minerals and silica, ethyramines, silica, potassium amyl xanthanate, PAX, it would be pyrite you were floating. So these are just, you know, one very, very small little section. This is some information that Camp gave me because we're looking at potentially floating the iron oxides from Montana B to get a concentrate. We can then leach and save a lot of effort on the leaching end that way. Well, the reason, Chris, is because it sounds so cool.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's pretty much it. I mean, the promotions department probably got a vote on that one. But yeah, as I say, these different
Fatty
chemicals.
acids. Does that mean we could use bacon?
I think that's a fat, not a fatty acid.
Drat.
But the key is they're all modifying the surface chemistry so that it attracts or repels water type molecules more or less. Well, David, if you actually agitated it violently, you might be able to get some.
Yeah.
But the jet dry would actually be more of a suppressant for gold. It's making the gold more attracted to water and less repelling of it. So it would be acting as a suppressant in this case, and that wouldn't be your ideal situation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Volca Bear.
Yeah, thank you.
We're all learning here. Have you ever heard of a geologist that is also a model? I presume you mean like a male or female that, gets pictures taken of them and gets paid for it. No, I have not. That wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of them out there, so there have to be some handsome and pretty ones too. I didn't think it was possible, but we found one. No, there's lots of geologists out there. Certainly some of them have to be attractive.
Are they any good at geology, though? That's my question. I've had geologists that I thought were really, really good and, could really put everything into perspective, and then some that I don't know what their degree in geology was, but it wasn't gold mining.
Yeah, let me write that down so I'll check it out if Eva doesn't get too upset here. Let's see.
Exactly, Terry. You are so right. If you don't want to learn anymore, you're close to the end at that point. Half of the fun of life is learning and trying new things.
Oh. I mean, they got what's her name? Physics girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take one seriously.
What?
A geologist that was also a model. Male or female. Before anybody gets worried here.
Yeah, Terry. One of the problems with college-educated people, and this goes all over the place, I use it mainly to apply to mining engineers, is since they've been college-educated, they think they know everything. And reality has a nasty way of at least showing everyone else that's not the case. Quite often they can't see it themselves, but other people can very well.
Yeah, it's I think, if you have the desire to want to understand this or to learn things and continue to progress, you're on the right track. And if you don't want to learn it, well, that's pretty cut and dried. You're not gonna.
Well, Boca Bear, what other states are you comparing it to? Because compared to Arizona, it's not horribly different. I mean, the same thing. You got
It's not that much
lots of
different.
stockwork deposits and stuff.
Not that much different than Idaho or Washington or Alaska or the Yukon or British Columbia. I mean, actually, Montana, the Rockies here are very similar up and down.
Yeah, they all have.
Depending on what it is you're looking for. If it's just gold, then there's a lot of similarities.
They have a lot of base metal deposits and stuff here too, and they're all driven by volcanism, basically.
Right.
It's all that hot magma making things happen.
Hot water, hot steam, hot acids.
If I had some hot rock under my ass, I'd probably do something too, But it's that magma that makes it all happen.
Right. You have to have the geologic formations to make it work.
Well, are you talking Northern California? And would that be because they're, in the Cascade volcano area from the Cascadia subduction zone, Chris? I think where I worked in Southern California, it was pretty similar to a lot of Arizona. Old volcanoes.
Well, that's what you have here too.
Yeah.
Just trying to identify what those are or those faults from it.
in Arizona, a lot of times if you look and you see a mountain that's got cliff sides on it, sort of stuff, it's, think, well, that's a mesa or whatever. In southern Arizona, it's not usually the case. Usually it's a volcanic plug. Yeah, but it's the core of an old volcano. The magma would erupt, and as it does so, if it doesn't flow, but if it blows up in ash and stuff, that's not nearly as structurally sound as the magma that cools in the center of it when the eruption ends. And so, funny enough, over in Arizona, we have a Picacho Peak, and then Southern California, there's a Picacho Peak. But basically, it means flat top mountain, but they're both for the same formation. They're both volcanic plugs. And over there, Yuma Proving Grounds, we had Castle Dome, same thing. Yeah, well, that whole San Andreas fault thing has moved a lot of crap around. That a lot of other states, they don't have that kind of transportation system of the Earth's surface going on. So, yeah, that would make sense. It is a jumbled mess over there in places. Yeah, or the two continental plates grinding against it. Pushing. Well, Mocha Bear, I'm enjoying it here in Montana too. I got to admit.
Now,
Montana's great.
that's-
Arizona sucks rocks.
that's how I ended up here. I looked at going to Alaska or the Yukon gold mining and looked at what it was going to cost to move equipment and all of that, and decided that maybe looking in the lower 48 would be a better investment. And Montana was the ticket at the time.
I must admit, there's a lot of interesting stuff around here. Although my friend Jason over there in Phoenix, you saw the pictures of his mine?
Yeah.
That's Wickenburg.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of.
I kind of like that Wickenburg area there. I was down there. My parents used to stay down there in the winter.
There's a lot of mineralization in there.
I just never got back to spend the time that I wanted to in that area down
Yeah. No, I think Nevada, it's just so empty. Going from point A to point B in Nevada,
Yeah.
it's like forever.
a desert.
Well, I mean, we're in Montana is like 120 miles to the next gas on a major road. Okay? That's the thing. It's like, this is the road from Las Vegas to Reno.
And there's nothing else.
And it's, I think the longest stretch we saw was like 120 miles between gas stations.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
it has a weird
wow.
vibe.
Yeah. Twilight Zone.
yeah, it does feel a little weird over there for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, Vulture Mine.
Yeah.
There's, everywhere you go in Arizona, except for north of the Mogollon Rim, there's lots of mineralization in chunks almost everywhere. In Yuma they had gold mining, and in the Parker Quartzsite area, you got Oatman, Wickenburg, Baghdad. You got there's actually copper mine south of Phoenix there, between it and Casa Grande. Miami Globe area, Tucson, south of Tucson there. In the southwest corner, there's not too much the way of big mine, but then it's all owned by the government as a bombing range. So I don't know if there's anything there or not. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that'll protect the Nevadans from the electric cars. Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, Terry. I mean, in uh, Australia, you have these long, long distances, but that's kind of normal for Australia out back. But out here in the western United States, Nevada's kind of a special case in terms of just long distances without anything.
That's our outback, I guess.
Yeah,
Of course, some of that West Texas is about the
They
same.
had a weird vibe.
yeah, but even in West Texas, you don't go that far
No,
between
yeah,
gas
probably
stations.
not. Probably not.
You know. Yeah, it's weird. Um, for whatever reason, just Nevada is not very populated.
No, it's got some good, great mines though.
It's got some good mines, and they're all like 200 miles apart. It's just bizarre.
No,
Argonaut, I think they're updating the new mineral resources thing at the BLM, where you can actually see copies of the claim documents now.
yeah.
And so,
That's-
yeah,
Eventually,
new.
yeah, it's fairly new here.
Yeah, but you're supposed to.
Otherwise, yes, you have to go to the recorder's office to find it.
But you're supposed to have to like put in your GPS, put it in the app on your phone.
yeah.
Direct
Sport says, hey guys, what do you know of experience with direct smelting? There's a grade cut or ore volume limits or minimum. Yes, there would be a minimum, and it has to do with economics. Very little ore is direct smelting, especially gold ore. Usually you would do some kind of concentration step first because the energy cost of melting rock is pretty high. And so you want to try and minimize that wherever possible. Once you get it to a suitable grade, direct smelting is usually a very efficient way of recovering the mineral in terms of you don't lose too much of it. If it's done properly fluxed and treated, you're going to get some pretty good recoveries. But it's a pretty expensive way to do it, which is why they like to use leaching or things like that for gold, which are in small quantities. And they will concentrate base metals, chalcopyrite or galena, things like that, until they're nearly pure mineral before they then smelt it. As an addition, nowadays using enriched oxygen furnaces, that sulfur now becomes part of the fuel of the process and does a lot of the heating. Thank you, Voca Bear. What is a suitable grade? That would all depend on the particular mineral you're looking at. In the case of gold, I don't know, have you ever heard of anyone direct smelting gold ores? No. Now, I've heard of them throwing quartz gold ores directly into a furnace,
right,
because they're using it for flux.
Right.
And so, in that way, it's kind of a direct smelting thing. That's because they needed the silica anyway for the flux mixture. In terms of a base metal, you'd have to be in the tens of percent, I'm sure, to be direct smelted. Like 20% lead.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you had a good galena, like some of it that came here from north of here, was really, really high grade ore coming out of it, but that could go right to the smelter. And that's what they were doing, was going right here to East Elm and the smelter. Yeah. But it looked like bars of lead and silver already coming as the ore. I mean, there was no other real unwanted thing in it, I don't believe.
Yeah, I say you can do it, but it has to be really good. I say when I say tens of percent, I mean that literally, like 20%, 30% lead. then you could use it direct smelt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you hand sort.
Yeah, you pretty much have to have some kind of a separation system to hydrate the ore enough to get to that point of smelting it and turning it into a bar of gold or a bar of copper or whatever.
Yeah, Goldstream, the rules don't make it hard for a small operator, they make it impossible for a small operator.
Yeah, leaching is like out of the question unless it's tank leaching or something.
Is quartz hosted in meta gray wax? Well, again, if you can sell the quartz for flux, then it might be useful. Aside from that, if it's got gold in it, I've never seen a direct smelting gold. I mean, you'd be looking at for direct smelting gold. I mean, that was just how you were getting it out. What, 5-10% gold, maybe? Even then, there's so many other ways.
I think that'd be rich ore, I would think. Almost.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd be incredible.
You crush and concentrate, leach your tailings. I think there's just more economically efficient ways of recovering gold from rock than direct smelting, unless you're using the silica for
You'd
flux.
have to have a concentrate. You'd have to be grinding it, concentrating it.
Yeah. So if you're talking gold, yeah, I've never heard of that. And by the way, by the time you get to that kind of grade, you're going to make a lot more money selling it as specimens.
Yeah, if it's that rich for direct smelting, it might be more specimens.
It would definitely.
I mean, you should visually be looking at gold in it.
Yeah. I saw a rock from Australia that came up not too long ago, like a year or two. 30% gold.
I believe it.
Holy crap.
There's probably some right here somewhere if you can find it.
Yeah, there's probably right about there. A long way away. Somewhere in that general direction. You know?
Yeah, there's some rich stuff here too. It's just finding it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Terry. And that's why you don't usually use it as a method to recover metal.
Right.
But as I say, smelters used to in Arizona, the copper smelters used to buy quartz all the time and give the miners a credit for the gold because they needed the quartz for the flux. Yeah, well, that would be interesting.
Well, if there's enough lead in it, Goldstream, you'd melt it right there at a campfire.
Yeah,
you know, you may have a problem with getting good separation with silver on a campfire because you wouldn't have the heat, but you definitely get a lot of the lead. You know, you could puddle it in a frying pan on a fire.
Well, the interesting thing is how much lead would convert to oxide in that environment. But, I mean, the sulfide would oxidize
as long as your heat didn't get too high, it probably wouldn't too bad.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have too high losses.
No, I've got some samples that came out of a mine north of here that it looks almost like lead bars, and you can see it's broken rock, but that's how much lead and silver. It's just about a solid ore.
Yeah, now Sports here is saying, yes, super high grade. Well, again, if it says super high grade, sell it for specimens or jewelry.
Saw it, yeah.
You're going to get a lot more money for it.
Than what it's going to cost them. Well,
if it's really high,
you've got tons, 500-ton loads that you can, have moved. Then going to a processing facility economically could turn out to be a wonderful idea, but you need to have enough mining or enough material out that you can do some shipments that are big.
Well, I say if it's I don't know of any mine that has super high grade in huge quantities. I mean, I've been at a mine where they, random stuff is running over $100,000 a ton. But again, a few tons of that, and you're done. You're back into ordinary grades or just high grade stuff. But if you're at super high grades, you definitely want to look at specimens because you can get 5 to 10 times the gold value for the gold in
Two
it.
or three anyway.
I'm gonna say it.
Depends on what the
If
specimen
it's
looks
yeah,
like.
right.
really good stuff, you can make a lot of money on that. So you definitely want to check that out before you worry about crushing it up and trying to recover the gold. One thing that you can also do in small quantities, if it's really, really rich stuff, you can use hydrofluoric acid. Don't try it yourself. That stuff's some nasty killer stuff. The hydrofluoric acid will dissolve the rock away from the gold, even if it's silica, and leaving you this pure crystalline gold.
That would actually be a way to do it, but you definitely you gotta figure it out in a lab type setting where you're not gonna be killing yourself.
Hydrofluoric acid makes cyanide look.
Boy, it'll take the rock away from that gold and leave you that skeletal gold. It's beautiful as hell.
And very, very valuable.
Yeah.
It'll do it pretty fast too, actually.
I've never seen it.
Oh yeah? Oh, George had some that was just, he actually threw it in some acid and forgot about it. Put it in he had like a peanut butter container. And he put it in the camper so it got shook all the time. And he went to pull that gold nugget out of there, that chunk of quartz out of there, and there wasn't any quartz left. It was just the gold. And it was about 1/3 gold too. It was a beautiful, but it was the most beautiful. It was really fragile, but it was the most beautiful specimen of just gold veins all still together. Oh my God, was that cool.
Now, just to make sure nobody has been misled by my associate here, it was not a peanut butter jar, because hydrofluoric acid will dissolve a peanut butter jar,
It was a glass jar.
Glass hydrofluoric will eat it.
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Well, it sure did one hell of a
Then
job on
it
the
was
rock.
probably in limestone or dolomite. In that case, almost any acid would work.
Yep, man, they pulled that gold right out of there.
Yeah, hydrofluoric, it will eat just about anything except a self-protective metal, where that's what happens. It gets a fluoride coating on it and it won't dissolve. But in normal plastics, like this, will handle almost all acids, but not hydrofluoric. Teflon is about it. That's what that or a self-protective metal, that's about it.
Which is why you don't do this at home.
No, it's not something to play with.
Yeah, hydrofluoric is just horribly, horribly dangerous stuff. Yep. Chris Georgie, quote, "Of all the nasty things I've worked with, hydrofluoric is the one that scares me the most." Now, what does that tell you? Chris is not the kind to get really intimidated by chemistry. Yeah. Okay, sports. Again, it may be something that can be easily made into jewelry or something like that. And need to take it to some specialists there to get an estimate of what the heck you've actually got. Yeah, Chris is saying the worst part of it is it will go through your skin without you noticing it and start dissolving your bones. Yeah, it's just horrendously nasty stuff. It is really, really bad. It can be handled properly without huge difficulty if you know exactly what you're doing. When you screw up, and it's bad news. It's not crystalline, it's leaf. Not that pretty, falls apart, but I do have ponds and specimens. Say, if it's that kind of stuff, you should be able to concentrate.
Take a specimen and get a tile saw and saw it, see if it'll splay the gold out across the rock. Because if it will, it could create specimens that are really high value.
Yeah, I'll say, if it's in a case like that, it should be easy to crush the rock and recover it if it's not valuable a specimen without having to actually melt the rock itself. Yeah. Yeah. I say, when Chris Georgie is scared, People take note. Okay. Yeah, I agree,
Yeah,
Gulfstream.
Yeah, it doesn't take a very big rock to weigh a lot.
Well, it also it's not much fun hauling large bulk specimens of dumps when you know there's not that much gold in it. Yeah, I agree, Chris. If it's visible in cut rock, it should be worth a lot.
That's why I would try cutting it just to see if it is visible and, if it'll splay when you cut it. It could be worth a lot of money for jewelry type grade material.
And sports, do you have a local like gem and lapidary club or a college that has a gem and lapidary sort of class or something? That might be a good place to start. Or some local jeweler or something might be a good place. But yeah, if you've got visible gold, and I mean, yep, I can see it sort of gold, yeah, it's worth money, more than the gold itself is. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. It gives you some other avenues possibly without the fun of, having to do some serious mining.
Yeah, that's it. If it's that good, yeah, that's some good stuff. It's unusually good, and that's the key. Unusually, because unusual is worth money in most cases.
Yeah, that's true, Goldstream. You go to a rental shop, you can rent a tile saw for the day,
Maybe 50
or whatever, a couple hours and saw it.
Okay, then they can often be stabilized too. But let's say if it crumbles, etc., then it shouldn't need to be smelted. You should be able to just crush it and concentrate it.
Yep.
Shouldn't be difficult at all. Just crush it up. Even something like a little Cobra crusher or something like that, dolly pot, just smash it up and try panning it out and see what your recoveries are.
Yeah, you may be, I'm not saying you are, but you may be overthinking it as far as the smelting.
Yeah. And micromount specimens, save all the cuttings. Absolutely. It's amazing how much that stuff can be worth.
If you can
Well, if
pulverize
you've got
it.
some really flaky gold, a lot of it can be like, if you can get the little flaky stuff separated, you can put it in those little crystal vials and such, and it's worth a lot more that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get little vials of specimen gold.
$1 worth of gold for $5.
And then when you do with the rest, you sell it as pay dirt.
Yeah. Pay dirt bags. I kind of like that idea.
Bags of pay dirt.
I don't know.
There's usually, I say, if it's really rich, there's usually some way you can make more money than the entrained gold value.
Well,
usually something you can do that.
If the rock is that unstable, it should be able to be crushed out of there and separated.
Yeah, it should be easy to do. That's kind of the hard way to go about it. Yeah, I agree with Chris there. If you've got easily visible gold in the rock, there should be some way of making a lot more money than the entrained gold value.
Well, if it's rich enough, the gold is gold. But
yeah, that's the entrained gold value.
Right.
So if you can sell it for twice or three times that with less work,
oh yeah,
well,
well, you don't have to mine as much of it. That way.
Absolutely.
You can, that mine could operate a long time if you're only taking a ton out at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd love to find one like that with gemstones.
Yeah, generally, you're correct, Goldstream. If it's that soft, it should be easy to crush up and do a gravity separation. And then whatever's left over, if you can't gravity separate it, that could be leached or something.
Or sent to a refiner and just have them pay us for the values.
Yeah. Goldstream, from the sound of things, it's by definition free milling. You know, you can see the gold, it's basically free millable gold. But I say we're just trying to get him the most bang for his effort. Yep, you can always assay the leftovers. Yep. So that's the sort of thing, if you're cutting it or whatever and you have all these crumblies, those might be something that, say, you might want to do a gravity separate and then pulverize and do a gravity separation or something. It sounds kind of like a bit of an ideal ore for an impact mill too, in terms of we tend to ball up the flakes.
Yep.
Oh, goodness gracious. We had a long day. I don't know, something's over the horizon. It's funny, in Montana B, you're in a valley, so the sun's got to be up a while. At M, oh no, you're above most of the other mountains out there.
You're in the sun at 5 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he had a park for that gold.
60%.
Well, that's what kind of table were you using? You know, because I mean, I've got some gold here that won't table at all, but you can't see it either. You know, with an electron microscope, you can see it, but this stuff is not visible to the naked eye. And also curious, how do you know you lost 60% of it in your yard? I'm presuming that you had it assayed. If you didn't, then that's really hard to tell. So in our case, yeah, the assay showed we're only getting like 15 to 20% using the gravity separation. But the way to fix that is to go to leaching.
Well,
if you had something as rich as you're talking about, then leaching should be pretty easy. You don't have to use cyanide. Okay, it says assay. What kind of table were you using, Sports? And how do you know that it was properly adjusted? Not saying it wasn't, just saying how do you know that? Because gold that you can see is typically gold that you can gravity recover.
Well, it sounds like the impact mill's doing what it needs to do. If you're losing it in the water, it's awful fine gold. So then it's a matter of refining.
Well,
that part of it, the recovery side of it.
Yeah, again, if it's that big a chunk, Mountain Baker first, and then a Gemini, those are generally usually fairly good tables. What are your assay grades running? So those are both reasonably good tables, and not just recorded one flaky. But I think Gemini can be a bit hard to set up.
It's tough. It is touchy.
It is
you got a
touchy.
lot of water valves to play with to get.
Never used one.
But if it's the gold's that fine of carrying, it's definitely in recovery. So then you need to dial in, kind of like you were doing, where you have your head grade, your mid grades, your tail grades, and start to calculate where you're.
No, that's why I said still lost 60% of the water is by acid. Maybe try a cyclone, that's a possibility. The other question is, have you ever microscopically observed the gold to determine what the particle sizes are directly? You can get a little pocket microscope with a reticle in it and just look at it and measure it. I mean, my pocket microscope can tell me down to the thousandth of an inch how big the particles were. That was kind of my lowest resolution, was 1/1000th of an inch. But that was nothing for this crap. Montana B just sucks. Of course,
Otherwise, you'd almost have to go to Leach and back. You know, you're getting that kind of losses.
yeah, that's what I thought, Mr. Lodak. They're not terribly expensive at Home Depot or whatever.
See, now we gave you something else to do, Mr. Lodak.
Argonaut, they're generally considered to be, however, no assay technique is 100% foolproof. And the question is, have you tried other assay techniques? But if the fire assay says there's a bunch in there, and who's doing the fire assay? Is this a big laboratory, or is this, Elmo Green Bean's, corner side assay lab? I don't know.
I like to send assays to 2 different labs to see if they're even compatible.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to be misled with a high assay and find out that it's really not there.
I suspect Goldstream 24 inches, more the width of the table or something, more like a bridge saw as opposed to the diameter of the blade. Because I've never seen a tile saw with a 24-inch blade.
They make them.
But I have seen tile saws with 24-inch tables, no problem. I've seen with 48-inch tables. I've used them, pain in the butt for using a bridge saw, because they can get cattywampus pretty easy. Whenever it's effective, I like using the regular rolling table saws. The bridge saw, I mean, if you're cutting 36-inch long tiles, you have to.
Thousand mesh.
Okay, 2 separate leads, 1,000 mesh.
Okay.
Okay. If that's true, then you've got thiourea leaches, thiosulfate leaches. There's something called Bahamian Refining Company in Arizona that supposedly has a non-toxic leach. Bahamian. They used to advertise in the California Mining Journal. Those are the ones that come to mind. There's also an Australian company that says it's a thiosulfate leach apparently, but I haven't been able to pry any real details out of them, so don't consider it practical right now. But one thing you do not want to do is aqua regia. That's not real safe. It makes fumes, and it's real expensive, and you've got a very nasty material you're dealing with and you'll have to dispose of later. But things like thiourea and thiosulfate are much less toxic and hazardous. And then you got to look. Dissolving gold is half of your problem too, sports. Then you have to turn the dissolved gold back into real gold, and there's precipitation, like zinc cementation and such. There's also electrolytic. You can plate it out, or you can use an absorbent like carbon or a ion exchange resin to absorb it. But then you now got to get it out of the resin or the carbon. So now you need another set of things going on to do that. It's called a stripping circuit. So that adds complexity. If you can just directly precipitate it or cement it, that will probably be a lot easier on a small scale. And as Chris brings up, halide leaches too. Yeah. Um, Basically, you're trying to convert the gold into like a gold chloride or a gold bromide ion, something like that. There's different ways of doing it. Um, in general, gold kind of likes to do that, so it's not horribly difficult. You don't have to use extremely nasty chemicals. Um, Cyanide is actually not a horribly nasty chemical. It's got a bad reputation, and it is toxic as hell if you don't handle it well. But so is the 30-06. You know, and
Good analogy.
so your car is probably the most dangerous thing you deal with most times. People seem to do it. Well, direct smelting, first of all, you're going to have to use chemicals too in order to collect it. You can't just like melt the rock and the gold all settles to the bottom that easily. That's
Not that easy.
doesn't work that way. And the energy requirements are going to be very high. Just take a look at like say what's his name, Mount Baker Mining, and he's smelting some stuff down. Look at how long he's running that propane furnace to get everything up to temperature. Well, energy is money. That's the nice thing about leaches. If you're that rich in ore, then you should be able to make a very rich solution, which means you should be able to economically be able to either precipitate it or directly electroplate it out of solution. And that makes for a fairly simple setup either way. Probably direct electrowinning is the simplest.
That might be the way to go, actually, would be to get the separation and then plate it out, electrowinning it out.
I don't think the hydrogen peroxide is used as the actual elixir of the gold stream. It might add something like hydrogen peroxide plus hydrochloric acid, maybe that would be an oxidizing agent, plus the chloride ion. That's what Chris is saying. Yeah, I can assist halide leaches by providing the oxidizing potential. That's what the nitric acid does in upper region.
Hydrogen peroxide actually isn't that expensive, and you can buy 55-gallon drums of it pretty reasonably.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if it's that rich and that small, you probably your best bet is leaching, because it'll leach like a son of a gun. Small enough particles, yeah, it'll leach. That's what we're looking at this Montana B. When we get to the final stage, will probably be a leach, but we're hoping we can do an intermediate concentration step in there so that we can leach a small fraction of the material.
Well, that might be an ore that'd be worth doing just exactly what you're doing with Montana B. Is spend $1,000 and have them figure out, take the samples and run them and figure out how to get the recovery.
Another possibility you might look at, Sports, is flotation. Chris, do you know what will 1,000 mesh, will that float? I know it's getting pretty small for flotation. I'm not a real expert in flotation, but if you could get that to selectively float, that might work out reasonably well. If it's just in silica, shouldn't be too hard. What do you know, Sports, what other minerals there are involved besides silica and gold? Is this pretty clean silica? Or has this got a lot of iron in it or anything else?
I agree with Chris. I don't know that flotation.
Well, it's column flotation can also work better on the real fine stuff. But yeah. Well, it does sound a lot like Montana Bee, doesn't it? How much iron, Sports? I'm dealing with like, what was it, 20% iron?
2% or something.
Yeah,
It was pretty high.
I've got pretty high iron content there. But that's where the gold is in the iron. So we're looking at maybe floating the iron oxides off and then leaching the iron oxides. It would depend on how selectively we can do it and what efficiency we can do it. In other words, how much of the gold can we get? If we could get like 95% of the gold and reduce the volume to 20%, we'd be in pretty good shape. 19,752 parts per million. That'd be 20 parts per thousand. 2%. 2% iron isn't that bad. If the gold were to float with the iron, that's kind of the system we're looking at here at Montana Bee. We're going to have them run some tests. That's why I had the information on flotation of iron oxides. If you're looking at 2% iron, then it's not bad. If all the gold is in the iron and will float with the iron, then you've now increased the amount of concentration by 50-fold, which makes the leaching that much smaller. On the other hand, I don't know, did he ever say exactly what the grade was? Could you give us an idea of the actual grade we're talking about here? Because it makes a big difference. Say if you're already at a high enough grade, you just go leaching. We don't worry about anything else. In our case, it's kind of marginal, and so we're looking to see, direct leaching, or do we float it first? And if we can float it easily, then maybe some of the lower grade ores or lower grade material would become ore. It's all a matter of trade-offs. There is no magic bullet we say this is the way to do it. But let's see. What's the smallest mesh you can see with the eye? Ooh, an individual particle on a contrasting background. Probably about 400 to 600 mesh. You had like a particle of yellow gold on a black paint. Somewhere in that neighborhood. With my loupe, I could tell you it's more like about 1,000 mesh. But to the naked eye, I'm thinking 400 to 500 if it's a contrasting color. I understand that, Sports. Let me give you some numbers then, and you can interpret it in your head. If you're talking 1 ounce to the ton to 5 ounces to the ton, then a concentration step will generally make sense, or has a potential to. If you can get high recovery of the gold and a good concentration. If you're talking more than 5 ounces to the ton, typically the losses in any concentration step are going to exceed the cost of the additional leaching everything instead of just the concentrate. If you're over 10 ounces to the ton, I just say just direct leaching. Your efficiencies are real good. Now, there is a caveat to that. If you have a mixture of real fine and significantly sized particles, if your leaching solution does not dissolve the gold really well and reasonably fast, you may want to put a gravity circuit ahead of the leaching circuit to simply scalp out the coarser gold so you don't have to take the time to leach it.
Right.
Or if you don't take enough time, you're going to lose it.
You take that 40% that you had of the free gold, you get that out of the equation before you go to the leaching.
55,000 iron. Same thing, you're looking at 6%. So let's say using the numbers I gave you, you can, adjust in your mind and see. If it's below 1 ounce to the ton, if you can't easily concentrate it, it's going to be tough to direct leach it real well on a small scale. If it's between 1 and 5 ounces to the ton, you're looking at a good possibility that a concentration step may be worthwhile.
I would think so.
Above 5 ounces to the ton, you're generally just leach everything, but take into account the possibility you might want to run at gravity first to catch the big particles of gold that do not leach well. And again, this is where having a mixture of stuff makes life complicated. If everything was the same size, the answer would be simple. If you got big gold and small gold in the same rock, then it gets complicated. But crush it to mineral liberation / mineral exposure, run it over gravity, and then leach it. I have not seen 10 ounce to the ton ore, except in one possible case, that didn't have any coarser material to it. But this Montana B comes pretty close to that. And I suspect that a gravity separation is of modest utility. Okay? Other ores, it's going to be a major thing. You're going to get 30 or 40% of your gold in the gravity section.
You've got size particles, so you need to identify size particles of actual gold.
So you've got 1,000 hash, so
Well,
somebody's done something good.
Yeah.
Leaching is above your pay grade. I don't think so.
No, it isn't.
It's not that kind. Can you make coffee? You're leaching.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're leaching the coffee out of the ground. That's what it is.
Darn it, there was a company, I think they moved. They were out in Washington. They moved to Sandy, Oregon. I can't think of their name. But they would help you take that and run it through some testing that they do to figure out a small design.
Sandy, Oregon?
They were
Action Mining, I think.
Action Mining, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, they would help to create the leaching circuit for you.
I don't remember them doing that.
Yes, they did.
They did?
Yep. They would take a sample of your ore, and you can go up there and be right there when they do it if you're concerned about.
Montana now.
All right, I knew they moved.
Yeah.
They're here in Montana.
They used to be.
They've got a PO box here at least.
Okay, Action Mining.
That's a
But
possibility.
they would help you create a small leaching circuit. And like Keith said, it's not as complex as it sounds once you're working with somebody who understands what we can test and try and where we get our efficiency.
It's essentially kitchen chemistry.
Yeah.
But you just need somebody who knows
What,
how to blend the ingredients.
Right.
Once they've got it and can give you the recipe,
Right,
it's
there's
easy.
the recipe. It's like making dinner or whatever. There's the recipe. You mix this, and this, and then do this, and you should be able to get your recovery.
And it's the sort of thing where Bahamian refining in Arizona, you can probably just Google. You can't. If I turn that computer on, we're going to lose the stream. It's just weird. But small scale gold leaching. There's a number of possible ways of doing it. Chris, do you have any other companies that do that? You know, I understand sports, but we use chemicals every day. Like everything else, you just have to be careful and make sure you learn enough so you don't make mistakes. Like, guns, driving cars,
Yep.
circular saws. There's lots of things that can hurt you badly.
Your bathroom cleaner, you're dealing with,
Oh yeah,
you know,
mix ammonia with bleach and see what happens.
yeah.
You get chlorine gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Let's say that one, the clean mining technologies. If you want to see something funny, sports, Google, or not Google, go to YouTube and search, I think it's clean mining technologies, and look at their artisanal system or artisanal scale system, and it gets pretty interesting. That's hydrazine. I always heard it was chlorine, Chris. But yeah, you can see it's a pretty simple system they're theoretically promoting. I'm trying to find out more about it myself. But I understand you being cautious
Hesitant, yeah.
about leaching, and that's a good thing because you don't want to do it if you don't know what you're doing. But it's not rocket surgery, okay? It's just basic chemistry applied in a particular way. Yeah, I did that one time myself, and it was like, holy crap, I don't know what this stuff is, but I know it's not good for my body. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure you know what you're doing before you do it.
But that's why I say to go to, start looking for somebody who can help you come up, formulate and come up with the recovery you need, and basically design a system that's safe for you to be able to run with.
And if you can't find stuff on your own, get back with us, and we'll see what we can help find. Because this is exactly what I'm looking at too. Okay, this is
and you're using camp, and that might be something similar that you might want to go down that avenue.
Yeah. I say this is exactly the problem I'm dealing with, except I've got a whole lot more iron. And it's possible I've got less gold too than what you do. So, but it's something definitely that I've got to figure out anyhow for the project I'm currently working on. And it can be done. It can be done safely. The question is, what's the easiest, safest, most cost-effective way of doing it? Yeah, 911 metallurgist. 911 metallurgist in Canada. He's got a lot of stuff too. He might be able to
Help you with that.
get you onto something, because that seems to be what his business is just reselling other people's systems. And so he puts a lot of information out there. But that seems to be his thing, is just having all this information there. You might check with 911 metallurgists too, and see, just ask him, small scale leaching system for gold. I should probably do that myself.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I may do a little homework sports, so maybe next Monday night we can go over notes again.
And one caveat to sports is that all of these leaching systems, flotation systems, etc., depend on the ore chemistry. In other words, what other stuff is in there besides gold and quartz? And for example, my particular stuff has dolomite limestone in large quantities also. So an acid system is going to consume a lot of acid. So your ore sounds fairly simple. I don't know how much you got besides silica and iron in there, but if that's basically all you've got with just minor other impurities, you probably have a lot of flexibility on the leaching system. But in my case, maybe a little bit more restrictive. Hey, Rod, Idaho, how's it going? You just log on? Haven't seen you in a while. Hey, he stopped by for Christmas this year. He was in.
Oh, yeah?
He's a truck driver. We seem to have a fair number of truck drivers here, don't we?
He was in Phoenix.
No, he was in Tucson.
I mean.
And I think it was Christmas Day, wasn't it, little one?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, Christmas Day, and
Came over for
I called him,
Christmas.
and he says, "Guess what?" And I said, "Come on over for dinner." You know,
Cool.
and that was cool. It made Christmas extra special. You know, but yeah, that's a good thing. Let's try something new. Question for the field: small scale leaching systems, non-toxic, non-cyanide. And next week, we want to try and get a variety of potential answers to that we can research and see what seems to be the best things. Because I do need to know the answer to this question. I don't know if I'm going to be direct leaching or if I'm going to be concentrating first. But in my case, more like 2,500 mesh. Yeah, the only thing is to get it into Doré bar is going to be leaching somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
No, now you got my curiosity too, because it's some stuff that, over the years I've went through, but not.
Yeah, so I don't remember Action Mining having leaching.
Yeah, they had a system they were working on, working with ore. And what he's doing now that he moved out here, I don't know, but maybe it's a good thing he moved it here.
I don't know about a test, but we'll see who can impress everybody the most.
Yeah, well, maybe we can come up with some good answers for, all of us.
We can have a vote at the end of the night. Everyone will think who came up with the best answer. But yeah, we'll see what we can do for you here, sports.
Yep.
And to make the contest even, I will stay out of it.
Ooh.
She could out research it.
But anyhow, so yeah, and sports. Let us know if you find anything too, because we could really use that. That is one of the big keys to small scale mining, kind of like electric demolition hammers and Sierra blasters. It answers a specific problem quite effectively. Let's see, Idaho Rogers says, busy. Mondays are always bad, but I listen to the replays driving down the road. Well, just don't watch the replays driving down the road. Yeah, that's part of it, Goldstream, but it's also a lot of restrictions are small scale. It's a matter of ease, simplicity, lack of capital expenditures,
And getting the result.
and so that will limit the possibilities somewhat also. Say in my case, I don't think I'll be able to do an acid environment, because when you're running like 1/3 dolomite, I think that would get pretty cost prohibitive. But say with just silica and iron, that shouldn't be a problem. Yes?
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the key. It's got to be something simple. Both in terms of you can't have to be an expert to use it or maintain. You don't need a an AA machine to analyze your solution every 30 minutes or something like that.
Right.
And preferably without a stripping circuit involved would be nice. There used to be reportedly something called amberane resin. It was an ion exchange resin.
Yep.
It would load, gosh, what was it? 20% gold by weight, some god awful thing like that. And then you could just ash it.
Really?
Yeah,
Burn it off.
you just heat it up, oxidize it,
And then smelt your gold.
flux it, done. Yeah. No, I don't remember that one, Jeff. Well, that would work, sports, if all the gold is floating, or the gold that isn't uh, recovering on your table is floating. If that's true, then you might be able to do that. But the thing is, you're trying to get the other stuff to go somewhere else in the gold. If it's also floating, that's not going to be too helpful. But if you have gold that floats, gold that's gravity concentratable, and rock that doesn't gravity concentrate but doesn't float, then you might be able to do that and get a good concentration. And you still, would have to see what the percentage is. What amount of gold, what are your losses, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing wrong with that basic concept. But again, it's ore dependent. What does it actually do? In my case with Montana B, yeah, I get a lot of stuff floating, but I also get a lot of rock floating too. This iron oxide just turns to like clay and just floats away. So, well, most of the gold is floating away, so is most of the rock. Makes it very, very difficult. Yes, if you do have gold inside a drum like that, it is going to tend to get ground finer. Absolutely, Jeff. Yep, I say we've got a very similar problem here, sports. you know. I have used spirals before, not on microfine gold, but I tell you what, they don't work very well for even dredge concentrates on the
It's
middle.
hard to get a split that is consistent.
The middle fork of the Boise River, a gold cube worked much better than the spiral, and also much faster than the spiral. You know. How's it going, smoking? So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about a spiral in your case. I don't think it's got a snowball's chance in Yuma of, doing better than the table.
No, not a Gemini table. Not if you have an opportunity to do that. If you can take 40% of that gold out on the table, there's a hell of a start. Then you deal with that concentration.
Yeah. So you got 40% of it there, then you worry about the rest. Yeah.
40% very well could justify the whole mining operation if it's rich.
Yeah. I mean, that might pay your bills.
Yeah.
You can always, if you're paying your bills with what you're recovering and you can stockpile what you're not,
You could sell it.
then you can either sell it or you can get the money to deal with it later.
Right.
You don't have to deal with everything from the get-go. Yeah.
I'll agree with Goldstein. The spiral concept, I was not impressed.
spirals work great if you have exactly the right material which they put together to show you how well the spirals work.
No, I had buckets that we redid and redid and redid, and still were pulling gold out on the wheel, and
Yeah.
I was not impressed.
Yeah.
And I did it for a couple years before I bought my RP4 table, and I wished I would have bought my RP4 table right away.
No, that I've seen, I think it was like a Gemini table. They were demonstrating it on a video, and I mean, you're seeing these beautiful streams of gold and the black sands. It's like, yeah, that's an engineered concentrate, so it works perfectly.
Something.
Yeah. I don't know so much about the alcohol, but you could certainly add other things that will act as surfactants, suppressants, and things like that. Jet dry is, kind of the classic one. It'll tend to get the gold to drop. But he's talking about some really, really fine gold Idaho. And, yeah. And that's another thing you could try, sports, is just various surfactants, etc., to see if there's something that'll get the gold to drop. But 1,000 mesh is some pretty fine gold. Yeah, if you're confident in that number, I'm not arguing with you. If that's what you got, it's going to tend to be floaty. I've got smaller than that. I've got 80% passing 2,000 mesh. And that's not a guess. That was done by a university with an electron microscope. Yeah. Yeah, Goldstream. As a matter of fact, I was sighting in a rifle this weekend, and I misadjusted, the first shot, and I went and adjusted, and I adjusted the wrong way. So it hit real low and to the right. And that 30-06 took out that rock pretty damn good. Pieces went flying. Like, holy crap, what happened? But it was the doofus operating it, Also turned it into a lead and copper mine and contaminate the gold. Oh. I really thank you, Sports, for showing up tonight and throwing us some good questions out there.
Yeah.
Really makes it a lot more fun.
We could probably continue with this subject yet.
Well, I didn't mean to either, but when the bullet was low and to the right on the first shot, I adjusted the laser high and to the left.
Wrong way.
Like, no, you're not adjusting the bullet impact point, you're adjusting the laser. Yeah. Now it's sighted in. I can hit the broadside of a barn now. I can also hit that little white patch up on the mountain over there. Yeah, thank you, Sports. I say, it's a really great questioning, really interesting problem.
Good subject.
And again, it's essentially the same problem I've got. So we can really
Hey, Roy.
put something to that. Oh. Hello, Roy. Let's see. Hey, Cherokee, are you still here? If so, how you feeling? Oh, I haven't had a chance to call you in a while. Oh. Actually, somebody, I won't say who, suggested that I should probably shoot into a drift or a decline or something beforehand to make sure there's not a bear in there. But as you'll see from the video from this week, I think the spider webs were a pretty good indication there wasn't one.
I always look for tracks or rub marks like at the portal or anything big going in and out of there.
Yeah, they haven't
Bigger
been,
than a pack rat.
yeah, there hasn't been anything big going in and out of there. Yeah. That was so frustrating because it's like, aha, I finally got access. And it's like, no, I don't. Son of a gun.
Didn't go nowhere.
Didn't go nowhere. Maybe
I've dug
About
a
30,
few
40
open like
feet.
that, yeah, I've
Yeah.
dug a couple open like that.
that's an interesting looking rock, but again, that whole area is pocketed. You know, if I can figure out a way to find those pockets, I think I'll be in pretty good shape.
Serious metal detecting, maybe.
Yeah, we tried a little bit and didn't get it to sing out on one of the rocks. You know, we were
There's
we pulled some. Well, we pulled some out. Yeah, didn't do it with it. So it's, what's the topic? Okay, Roy. Here's your assignment for next week. We have a gentleman that has some high grade ore, a very fine gold, 1,000 mesh minus, and we're looking for small scale, non toxic leaching solutions for gold mining. And part of
Not
it's,
cyanide.
I said non toxic, that kind of makes it non cyanide too. But anyhow, so I'm going to need something like that myself up here, and Sports is looking for something like that. So everyone that wants to is going to do a little research this week and see what we can come up with. Ooh, let me think. 1,500. What's the calculation on that, Idaho? Oh, you tempt me. You tempt me. $180, huh? Hey, little one. Idaho's got a line on 1,500 rounds of 30-06 Garand safe for $180. Do we have the money or not, or do you want to do what your gut say?
I wish we had the money, but we don't.
We don't have the money right now, Idaho. Although you do tempt me. You do tempt me indeed. Although, that's another thing I gotta write down. I have found out that they now make a gas plug for Garands that basically has more space in it so that the pressure peak is much less. So you can run regular sporting ammo in a Garand. And so if I'm going to be using that for hunting,
That would be something you'd want to do.
then I could do that. It's a little heavy to pack around, but what the heck? You know? And David, you may be right about javelinas, but I'll tell you something else will scare the crap out of you. Be crawling into an attic, opening up into a little stope here, and right above your head, this giant hissing sound starts. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking, and you think there's a mountain lion up there when actually it's just two giant owl chicks. But yeah, that was exciting. Yeah, Roy, that would be a urea. And then they have thiourea based leeches. I believe they're an acid leach, so they might not work on my ore. I have to double check that. But yeah, urea, thiourea, which just means sulfur in urea, will dissolve gold. I don't dispute that, Idaho, and if I had unlimited funds, I would be happy to buy them. Unfortunately, I don't. I don't know why that is. Okay. If you just save me again, that's fine. Sounds excellent. Um, Kevin, instead of getting it to drop it on, take it off the top with the suds. Yeah, then you want to use some kind of a collector and foaming agent, something more like pine oil as the frother. And you probably just go with pine oil as a frother and not even have to use an attractant for good gold. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here, Roy, is come up with a kind of an off-the-shelf system that somebody already makes and has all the parameters figured out, etc. So it's just, plug and play. If not, I may have to invent something else. Damn it. I'm so tired. Nobody makes the tool I need, so I got to get out the grinder and make the tool. Ugh. Believe me, it's happened. I'm sure it's happened to you too, right? Yeah.
Or you're up on the mountain working and you have to make something because the town's way too far away.
I need to get a Frazzastat. That's going to take me 4 hours. I'll whittle one.
Right?
And I tell you what, I was down in Mexico in Sonora one time. Those guys, I swear they can whittle a frickin' carburetor out of a block of aluminum. They're amazing down there.
Well,
Yeah. Goldstream, it's half the fun if you don't need it. Now, if you need it, a lot of the fun goes out of the yeah. But, it's like the impact mill. I mean, other people make impact mills, but none of them did what I wanted. So I had to build one. Turns out it worked reasonably well. Yay!
Yeah.
Kettle corn machines. What I mean? Yeah. Didn't exactly do what I wanted, so I designed one. Then I found out about heat distortion of metals under intense environments. That caused me to make Plan B. Plan B had some other shortcuts. Then we came up with the C model, and that baby kicks ass. Yep. Virtue. Hi, Mr. Virtue. Yeah, we're
Still at it.
we're still at it, but I'm not sure for how long. 9:20, huh? Winters are for inventing. Maybe, I think, hopefully it'll be winters are for producing. The idea is it would be nice is to start making this equipment
Yeah.
and having a shop and a bit of a warehouse and everything. And during the winter, produce also, so in summer we can use it and sell it. Yeah, that's how it works sometimes, Roy. It's like, how come somebody doesn't make one of these things? And other times you find out, oh, they do. It's amazing how many times.
You dig deep enough.
Somebody actually did, oh, that's better than my idea. Son of a gun. Yeah, I've been known to do that too. Trick is don't be so arrogant that you fail to recognize when somebody has beat you. Back in a second here. It's still illuminated outside.
Yeah, we made it for 3 hours and 20 minutes, so we're doing good.
9:20 there.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get dark till 10.
Yep. Another 40 minutes. All right, who else has got a good question? Good comment anyway. Now that we got our homework for the week, so. And Keith said he'd try to get some of those videos put together that we did up at Dirty Goat's Mine. So we should we'll get those on this week for you guys. That's a placer operation I was up to over the holiday weekend. Yeah, it happens that way, Goldstream, sometimes. Winter goes faster than you thought it was gonna. Well, Eva will be back, David, next week. We'll make sure she has her show.
Come on, let's show your smiling face, little one.
Well, here she comes.
Hi. Bye.
There we go. Everyone get their Eva fix there. Oh. Yes, I understand, folks. But say we were out in the field for 3 days. The PayPal account on these dialogues? Nah, not really. If somebody wants to donate, I can give them that. Say we're really not trying to make money off of this stuff. We're just trying to facilitate the flow of information. Now, Goldstream says, is Eva slacking? No report today? Probably, but that's her prerogative. She's not paid. Oh. Anyhow. Yeah. Hey, Kevin, just out of curiosity, have you had a chance to look at those plans? And if so, are they a little clearer and more understandable than the first set? I know they're different, but what do you think of the format, especially the diagrams versus the text, and having it separate sheets of paper so you can arrange them how you want? How did you like that? If it makes money off YouTube and it just turns into another job. To some extent, I agree with you completely, Goldstream. If you take a look at certain other personalities on YouTube, you can see where YouTube is their job. And I don't want it to be my job. I want my job to be gold mining. That's what I like to do, gold mining and extraction. Well, what's your question, James? This is where we answer questions. I don't know, Idaho. I probably have it somewhere. I think it's in that thing right there. But you can always email it to me again. I've been oxidizing iron pyrites in water and steel pans and having success in small batches. How can I step up? Now, Roy, when you say you're oxidizing it in steel pans and water, are you adding water and just kind of leaving it in the pan to oxidize naturally? First of all, increasing the temperature is going to increase that. So if you leave it in the sun or something like that. And the other thing is, if you want to do it quickly, you can heat, put it in like an iron pan and put it over a fire or burner and heat it to a high temperature where it's glowing a dull red. Glowing a dull red. Jeez.
Okay,
Can you speak, Jim? And
We all know what you meant. That's really bad, isn't it?
I'm glad you do. And that will work, much quicker. Just make sure if you're doing it that way that you stay upwind. Everything that comes off of that is not good for you.
Hey, Bryce.
Hey, he finally shows up. We're getting ready to go to bed. He shows up. My goodness. Let's see. Let me
See, it's still daylight, he was out working.
Let's see. Theoretically, Idaho ought to be in here.
He's looking up Idaho's number.
Nope, I don't have it in my list of contacts there, Idaho. So if you want to re-email that to me, that'll be just fine.
He might be in your phone.
That's a possibility.
Because I know you called him on the phone before.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm getting tired. If you get tired again, are you a retard? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know. I'm afraid to find out. Yeah, I've got it, Dave. It's there. Don't forget, you can call me too anytime in the evening. Usually works. Either I'm out in the field or not. But I'm usually not too losing. Yeah, Roy. If you get like a camp stove or something, go out in the backyard, mild breeze, there's nobody downwind, put it on, leave it there for a while. That's a pretty safe way to do it.
Stir it once in a while.
Yeah, I've got at least one video this week, probably two when I get to doing the samples. I mean, we just got in like 2.5 hours before the live stream started, so I haven't had any time to do anything. And we were sampling a couple different places. We went underground a couple of times. Eva was trying a metal detector. Very good place to find nails. And we also show you a video of a place where it would be insane with a metal detector. Because, I mean, literally, the nails were on top of each other like this deep. It was insane. Yep. But anyhow, so yeah, I'll have at least one video.
Aluminum widget too.
It was just a little door handle or something, little handle.
It looked like a kicker on a motorcycle. The little.
Yeah, if the motorcycle was this big.
Yeah. Well, I just said it.
No, it was kind of like you might see like a flush handle or a turn handle of some sort. Not sure what.
It was broken.
Yep, it had come off of whatever it had originally been stuck to. But yeah. So anyhow, one video for sure. Got some more video from you. So maybe one more.
Hopefully we'll get some placer video up, and that'll be from Dirty Goat's mine up here.
Was that what you sent me? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll try to maybe one day here go through them a little and see if we can do something with them.
Yeah, I'm not sure when we're going to get back out in the field because I just got so many things to do.
We're already saying waiting for tomorrow.
It'd be nice to get things caught up a little bit. But I've got some samples to prep, and I got a truck to fix, and got a number of things that need to get done here before we can head out in the field again. I need to get the saw show up so we can start doing the timbers.
Yeah.
Oh, you can sure get a lot of lead in the shooting range. Lead and copper.
Goldstream, I ran into a guy, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. He had two big trommels, really nice ones too. That's what they did. They went and dug up these shooting ranges and trap ranges and salvaged the lead, recovered the lead. And I thought that was the neatest damn idea.
Yeah, why not?
But that's what they were using as trommels and sluice boxes and recovering the lead, pumps. It would work. And doing it, they were getting paid environmental cleanup money for doing it.
Sweet. It
Yeah,
was really good.
I thought, hey, that's a cool idea for a mining operation.
Getting paid on both ends.
Yeah.
I like it.
Getting paid.
Yeah, and you can get the brass too.
Everything that would come up and get caught.
My impact bill will be interesting thing.
Yeah, they were
Brass.
stripping the ranges and cleaning them up. All right, Kevin.
Okay, Kevin. That'll be fine, Kevin. I'm just curious how it worked out. Oh, I sent another set of copy to Chris. And he said he'd get back to me when he read it all. And I thought, wow, you're going to read all of his instructions?
He will.
Skim
Chris
over?
will. He'll read
Probably
through it.
will.
Yeah, he'll critique you.
We
That's
got
okay.
we got any more questions? Anybody? My consciousness fades.
Yeah. Long weekend already.
Well, you all have your assignment for the week. See if you can come up with the best leaching solution for microscale non-toxic leach. Stop yawning. Huh? What? Yeah, I agree. Well, in a case like that, you can use, you want a continuous process. A table, is an example of a continuous process, but even something like, in that case, a spiral might work.
Well, you got so much variation in size of the lead in the particles, though, because you got sprayed bullets. And, I would say, 1 inch by 1 inch angle iron riffles or that, let the lead pile up and push the water through the plant fast enough to carry everything else out except the lead and brass.
Yeah, but then that's what he's saying. Is the riffles plug every 10 minutes. What do I do?
Not if you did 1 inch riffles 2 inches apart. You should be able to get quite a bit of lead piled into them things.
I know. I've been at a shooting range. It was running like 20% lead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be intense,
So,
especially a
that's
trap range or something where
So you'd have to be
pounds and pounds of lead night after night.
quick.
Well, it gives you the lead.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the price per ton of lead is right now, but I'm sure it's up there just like everything else.
Yeah, but I mean, you can have a table sort of thing would work, but say a spiral would potentially work. Like if you had like a drum with a spiral riffle,
To reverse it.
and you just
Yeah.
put it down a little bit away from the exit, have it spiraling it up and wash water running down through.
Yeah.
It wouldn't take
That
too
would,
big a drum to get a continuous flow. That's the thing. When you got that much, you want a continuous flow process. Yeah. Okay, Terry. I hope things go well.
Yep. Thanks, Terry, for being here.
Good night.
We were talking about some guy's ore that was real fine gold and various ways of getting it out of there.
Goldstream, what you do is tell the guys at the range you're doing an environmental cleanup and make them pay you to do it.
Terry says night, Eva.
Good night.
Well, again, that's a good question. Where do you sell it and get a good price
I
for it?
would think there'd have to be companies that buy lead for components. I mean, even zinc has some lead in it.
Yeah, I would know. I don't know.
There's got to be there's a lead market somewhere.
Well, I know the problem with brass casings, like in Tucson, there was exactly one recycling company that had permission to accept brass casings from spent casers from the bullets.
Well, you can mash them up and they don't matter then. You have to shred them. Oh, 220 a ton.
That's for batteries, yeah. So they still have to be processed, and I'll bet you lead's a lot more than that.
I would think it'd be several dollars a
Probably
pound.
double that.
I bet it's over 10 times that. $1 a pound would be
2,000 bucks.
2,000 a ton. I don't know. What's the price of lead, little one?
Well, I'm in the middle of a bonus game.
Ah, she's in the middle of a bonus game.
I'm winning trillions of dollars of fake coins.
Serious. Yeah, scrap dealer would be one place. No, I don't want that.
Give me a second there. I finished my bonus game. I'm looking it up right now.
Well, you can buy ingots for $12.75. Price
55 cents a pound. From one place.
2,147 per ton. Okay, so about $1 a pound is the gigantic wholesale price of lead.
Going anywhere from 55 cents to $1 a pound at recycling places.
Night, David. Night, Mr. Lodak.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being here.
Night, guys.
Alrighty. Going once. Any more mining questions? And once again, somebody came up with a good question that carried us through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
into that.
that's something I got to do anyhow. Going twice. Any other mining questions? I'm guessing that's a no.
They're all.
Well,
Here,
there's
too.
such a delay.
My question. Where's the gold?
Over there.
Yeah, right. Somewhere over there.
Yonder.
Yonder. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty.
Thanks
We're
everybody.
gonna call it a night. Thanks everybody. And we'll see what we can come up with for you there, sports next week.
Good night, everybody.